Chapter 2054. Zhang Yingshi and the others did not understand this fanatical belief, because they did not know the history of the land of the 9 prefectures. As members of the sect of insane, they had absolute faith that would not be crushed. Jian Qinshui and Emperor Yi led them to the main hall and treated them with the best hospitality. While Zhang Yingshi, the son of battle, and the others waited silently, Fan Yin was carving the words Tongtian territory on a stone tablet to guard the entrance. With these words, no one would dare to attack this place unless it was personally ordered by the Holy Empire's Holy Lord. No one dared to declare war on the Tongtian sect at this time, including the Saint Lord himself. He would not declare war on the Tongtian sect for a piece of celestial material. Moreover, the Tongtian Grand Sage and the Saint Lord were of the same generation. They used to have a good relationship and could even be considered allies. The stone tablet contained the Taichi Celestial Code, which meant that this stone tablet was indeed set up by the Tongtian sect. The stone steel was supported by the mysteries of the earth, so it weighed over 1,000,000 pounds. It took her 2 full days to carve the runes. Fan Yin was sweating profusely, and only on the 3rd day did she stop. She let out a long breath and clapped her hands, saying, "There's no problem. Just this stone steel alone is enough to stop all experts above the lower realm." Lin Wutian ordered 10,000 inner disciples and 10 true disciples to lift the stone tablet with thousands of chains. They walked step by step to the exit of the land of the 9 prefectures. Although it was difficult, the members of the insane sect were very excited. It was an honor to be able to lift the stone tablet. Everywhere they went, they were provided with food and water. The Son of War and the others saw this and admired the teaching ability of the insane sect. Their teaching was far better than the other holy lands and powerful sections. At this time, Yi Qinghan walked over with Bai Shaoxing. Everyone went to greet them. "Little Yi, how did you cultivate the land of the 9 prefectures? This faith is better than the monks in the blessed Buddha temple." Fan Yin asked curiously. Yi Qinghan smiled and said lightly, "Because of history, they are happy now because of the unbearable suffering of the past." With that said, Yi Qinghan took the initiative to follow and help everyone lift the tombstone. With Yi Qinghan joining in, everyone felt a lot more relaxed and their speed increased. Following that, Lin Wutian, Jiang Jingtian, Gu Qingyu, and the rest of the physical body experts joined in. Along the way, the sound of drums shook the heavens and stirred up the hearts of the people. The army at the front welcomed them, and the sound of the drums shook the eardrums of everyone. This was the cohesiveness of the insane sect. Wu Zong found this unbelievable, not only because of the insane sect's cohesiveness, but also because Yi Qinghan and the insane sect's upper echelons were willing to work with these ants. The upper echelons of the great world would never do something so degrading. They would rather spend more money and tire their subordinates to death than do such hard work. The Son of War and the others nodded thoughtfully. They stepped forward and headed straight for the giant stone tablet. They helped Yi Qinghan lift the tablet. With the support of so many experts, the speed of lifting the tablet was as fast as lightning. In the blink of an eye, they had covered a distance of 100 miles. The inner disciples of the insane sect were eliminated because of their speed. They could only be left behind and were no longer qualified to lift the tablet. The 10 true disciples gritted their teeth and persevered. As long as they persevered until the end, their glory would be indescribable. Yi Qinghan had the intention of nurturing the 10 true disciples, so he deliberately adjusted the speed to a suitable level. The 10 true disciples could withstand it, but they still had to rely on their willpower to keep up with their speed. 1 month, 2 months. Half a year later, the stone tablet was lifted to the entrance of the 9 state. The 10 true disciples were only in the middle stage of the Sector Lord realm, but they endured this mission. When they reached the entrance, they almost collapsed on the ground. However, they still persevered until the stone tablet was erected. Only then did they kneel in front of the tablet and gasp for breath. Yi Qinghan smiled. He was very satisfied with their willpower and perseverance. He nodded secretly. The son of war and the others could see that Yi Qinghan was testing these young disciples, so they were not in a hurry. At first, they thought that 90% of the 10 would be eliminated. At most, one of them would be able to persevere. But in the end, they believed that all 10 of them had persevered. Unbelievable! If such young disciples were placed in the sacred grounds, they would definitely be nurtured with great effort. Such a big sacred ground can't find such disciples. But in such a small place there are so many of them. The son of war said in surprise. Yi Qinghan smiled confidently. In fact, the difference in talent between each person was not big. In the end, it still depended on one's willpower and character. Of course, he did not exclude people like Lin Wutian. But if it wasn't for his perseverance, how could he cross thousands of miles barefoot and come to the insane sect? If he didn't come to the insane sect, who could find such a genius? Everything depended on luck. The status of the sacred ground is high. Who would go to such a small place to look for a genius? Even if there were people with strong willpower who went to the sacred ground to be apprenticed, would those high and mighty experts take a second look at them? Yi Qinghan asked faintly. His words left Wu Zong, the son of battle, Fan Yin, and the others speechless. Just as Yi Qinghan had said, even if there was a talented civilian loose cultivator kneeling in front of them, would they be willing to waste their time to recruit him and let the Holy Land nurture him? The crazy sect relies on the fact that we treat everyone equally. There is nothing else. The older generation of the crazy sect has fought alongside me. We have the same goal, which is to protect the land of the 9 states. Therefore, we dare to entrust our lives to each other. No matter how high the price you pay, it is impossible to make them betray their beliefs, Yi Qinghan said proudly. We are enlightened. The son of war and Wu Zong cupped their fists and said. Yi Qinghan smiled again and said, when you understand the history of the 9 states, you will understand the insane sect and all living beings. Is there a historical record? Let me see it. Fan Yin asked curiously. The 10 young true disciples of the insane sect quickly took out nearly 100 historical records from their storage rings. These records described the history of the 9 states over the years. It was not only about Yi Qinghan, but also the personal biographies of many experts, such as Great Emperor Fusu and Great Emperor Pangolin. They all had a few special biographies. Out of curiosity, Fan Yin and the others picked up some historical records and biographies of famous people and quickly read through them. When they read about the bitter battles in the countless star systems, they were suddenly enlightened, and they looked at Yi Qinghan in a different light. Half a day later, they had read all the historical records and biographies. The attitude of this group of people from the outer realm changed a lot. Take me to the ancestral land. I want to pay my respects to the martyrs. Fan Yin said. I will also go and take a look. I have never seen so many fearless existences. Their cultivation may be low, but their state of mind is far beyond the so-called upper level. They are even comparable to saints. The son of war sighed and said. Yi Qinghan sneered. In his opinion, the experts who died in that battle were far greater than the eternal saints. Please. Yi Qinghan gestured with his hand. The older generation of the insane sect wanted to go to the ancestral land to pay respects to the martyrs, so they followed without hesitation. Chapter 2055. Command the World. The ancestral worship ceremony will begin in a month. With this command, the vast sky covered the 9 provinces. Tens of thousands of heroes roared, and the sound of drums shook the sky in response to Yi Qinghan's words. Please. Yi Qinghan gestured to everyone as they slowly walked towards the primal chaos prefecture. Along the way, they learned about the local customs. The older generation of the insane sect, the son of battle, and other outsiders went to the countless galaxies with great reverence. These were all experts among experts. They strolled through the mountains and rivers together, looking at the beautiful 9 provinces. They were somewhat envious. It was also a beautiful thing to build a paradise in such a small region. At this time, all the experts in the 9 provinces left their homes and rushed to the countless galaxies to prepare to worship their ancestors. Yi Qinghan and the others strolled. Everywhere they went, they would tell them about the war that happened there. Half a month later, a group of nearly 100 people entered the Primal Chaos Prefecture. As soon as they entered, the mood of the older generation of the insane sect changed. Nie Tian, Qitian Monkey King, Xian Yanxue, Xia Qiue, Xia Chen Tian, Xia Ziluo, they covered their faces to hide their emotions. They didn't know how much suffering they had suffered here. In order to save the world, they almost didn't have a normal day. Yi Qinghan exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. He didn't even know how many lives he had devoured here. They had merged with him and lost themselves. It was said that his Tao heart had been unlocked, but when he came here again, the heavy memories would always entangle his soul like a heart demon. Yi Qinghan didn't stay here for long. Instead, he entered the countless galaxies. Yan Yunbei and the others rushed towards the ancestral land as if they were having fun. Their roars filled the sky, and the sound waves shook the mountains and rivers. Boom! Everyone destroyed the forbidden land of the past to vent their emotions. Yi Qinghan looked at everyone with a smile. He told the Son of Battle and the others everything about the forbidden land. This forbidden land had almost crushed the inheritances of the countless galaxies. Their hatred for the forbidden land was almost the same. They wanted to destroy it all the time. After a long time, the entire forbidden area had sunk. Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly and said, all right. Those rotten great emperors have already been destroyed. You guys can stop venting your frustrations. Qitian Monkey King raised his head and roared furiously. He pounded his chest and stepped on the mountain rock. His iron rod pierced through the mountain, and his divine robe was piercingly cold. Xia Qiue and Xia Ziluo covered their faces as they stood up. Back then, the entire Grand Xia dynasty had been massacred by the Forbidden Lands. The entire Xia clan had been destroyed because of this, and only the 2 of them were left. Now that they were here again, all the heartache of the past welled up in their hearts. Yi Qinghan let out a long sigh. His brothers and sisters of the eccentric sect had sacrificed too much for the sake of this galaxy. Some of them had almost had their entire family wiped out. This group of people had shouldered too much. Everyone cried bitterly. Even if they were to die in battle, they wouldn't shed a single tear. But now they were crying. The Son of War and the others waited silently. At this moment, they understood the feelings of the eccentric sect and the others. They had come together after going through life and death experiences. No wonder Yi Qinghan had never doubted his brothers and sisters. Yi Qinghan looked at this group of people from the eccentric sect and felt quite proud. From when he was a mortal until now, which one of them had not entrusted their lives to him? Half a day later, everyone calmed down and stepped onto the central continent. The leader of the ancient massacre gods had already led the other massacre gods to wait for them. They bowed and kowtowed. It was a pity that Di Longtian was not here, and the heavenly sword was not here. Senior Di Shang, if you were still here, you would definitely be gratified, Yi Qinghan said with gratification. At this time, nearly 1 million experts from the 9 states had gathered. They had all come to worship their ancestors and meet the eccentric sect's divine ancestors. Greetings to the eccentric sect's divine ancestors. They all knelt down and shouted. The 30,000 experts of the ancient massacre gods uniformly saluted. The sound of drums shook the sky. Yi Qinghan and the others accepted the salutes and said to the leader of the ancient massacre gods, "This is the first massacre god of your ancient massacre gods. In terms of seniority, he is even older than me. His name is Yan Yunbei. Why aren't you saluting?" The ancient massacre gods looked at Yan Yunbei excitedly and all of them knelt down. "Greetings, divine ancestor." Yan Yunbei smiled. In terms of seniority, he was much older than Yi Qinghan. It was natural for him to accept the salutes of these juniors. After seeing them salute, he reached out and helped the leader of the ancient massacre gods up. He said indifferently, "We are all family. There is no need to salute like this." "Thank you, divine ancestor." The ancient massacre gods all stood up and thanked him. "Since almost everyone is here, open the barrier of the ancestral land and worship the human ancestor and the ancestors of the 10,000 races," Yi Qinghan said in a deep voice. "Yes, divine ancestor." The leader of the ancient massacre gods said respectfully. "Hua!" Millions of people followed Yi Qinghan and the others to the ancestral land. The barrier of the ancestral land shone with a terrifying aura. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and opened the barrier. He knelt down on one knee and cupped his fist. Disciple Yi Qinghan brings all the living beings of the 9 prefectures to worship the human ancestor and the ancestors of the 10,000 races. May the heroic ancestors rest in peace. Disciple Ancient Massacre God Yen Yunbei brings all the ancient massacre gods to worship the heroic ancestors. May the heroic ancestors rest in peace. Yen Yunbei knelt down beside Yi Qinghan and said in a deep voice. Disciple Heaven's Equal Monkey King represents the 10,000 races to worship the heroic ancestors of the 10,000 races. May the heroic ancestors rest in peace. Heaven's Equal Monkey King represented the 10,000 races and roared in a deep voice. His roar caused the wills of the ancestors to dance. Disciple Xia Qiue and Xia Ziluo of the Great Xia Dynasty come to worship the ancestors of the Great Xia Dynasty. May the heroic ancestors rest in peace. Xia Ziluo and Xia Qiue knelt down and said respectfully. All the experts of the insane sect had their own identities. At this moment, they didn't represent the insane sect but only themselves. They respectfully knelt on the ground and worshipped the ancestors. The entire ancestral land lit up with light. Dragons rose from the ground and roared in response to the worship of these people. Countless tombstones shone brightly. The great Emperor Steel, Sovereign Steel, and Quasi-Emperor Steel all awakened. Their auras were terrifying. Even the powerful lower, middle, and upper-level experts could feel their terrifying battle intent. It wasn't something ordinary people could compare to. The Son of War and the others stepped forward. The Son of War of the Outer Realm War race comes to worship the ancestors. Now that the 9 prefectures are at peace, I hope the ancestors can rest in peace. Zhang Yingshi of the Outer Realm Heaven Chant Dojo comes to worship the ancestors. Fellow Taoist, I hope the ancestors can rest in peace. The martial sect of the Outer Realm Martial Tao Perfected Monarch Holy Land comes to worship the ancestors. I hope the ancestors can rest in peace. The experts of the Outer Realm also bowed. There was only awe in their eyes. They didn't look down on the cultivation of the ancestors who died in battle. The light of the ancestral land became even brighter. The wish of the ancestors seemed to have been completed. There were only cheers and joy. Yi Qinghan slowly stood up. He waved his hand and took out a jar of wine. He sprinkled the wine in the sky and said respectfully, "This jar of wine first salutes the heavens." The white clouds in the sky surged and the blue sky rumbled. The sun and moon appeared at the same time in response to Yi Qinghan. Immediately after, Yi Qinghan took out a second jar of wine and sprinkled it in the ancestral land. He said respectfully, "This jar of wine salutes the ancestors and the heroes of the 10,000 races. The third jar of wine salutes the brothers and sisters who have followed me for many years. Without you, how could I have pacified the 9 prefectures by myself?" Yi Qinghan turned around and bowed deeply. He drank the entire jar of wine. Jiang Jingtian and the others quickly helped Yi Qinghan up. Their eyes were filled with gratitude. In fact, over the years, Yi Qinghan had provided them with a lot of resources and reduced their losses. Otherwise, how many people from the arrogant sect would have survived until now? Chapter 2056. Everyone helped Yi Qinghan up, and their eyes were filled with gratitude. In truth, how could Yi Qinghan not be grateful to his brothers and sisters? Without them, he would have died long ago. The son of war and the others were envious. Who didn't want to have a group of brothers and sisters that they could entrust their lives to? But in reality, they didn't even have a single person that they could completely trust. No one was worthy of their trust. Most people would definitely betray when faced with absolute value. Dragons flew and phoenixes danced in the ancestral land. Strange phenomena appeared and pleasant sounds of nature filled the air. A peaceful aura shrouded the endless star system. Everything swayed, birds bowed, and beasts roared. Yi Qinghan stood up, feeling excited. He hadn't sat down with his brothers and sisters for so many years, but everyone understood each other's thoughts. They were grateful to each other, and were willing to entrust their lives to each other. In the face of certain death, no one would frown or hesitate. Hua! Yi Qinghan reached out and hugged Gu Qingyu, Jiang Jingtian, Qitian Monkey King. Everyone's eyes were filled with tears. Only in the mountains and rivers could they reveal their true feelings, the emotions in their hearts. All living beings in the 9 provinces were moved to tears. They wanted to rush up and hug the divine ancestors, kneel down, pray, and express their devout faith. The people from the outer realm weren't in a hurry and just quietly watched. It was as if they had also integrated into this group of people. Wu Zong looked at Emperor Yi and Bai Shaoxing and sighed sadly. He thought to himself, no wonder the 2 little ancestors threatened me with their deaths. It turns out that the feelings of a group of people who are not related by blood can really be so strong that they are better than family. Was I being too narrow-minded? Half a day later, everyone toasted a few jars of wine to the heaven and earth, to their ancestors, to their brothers and sisters, and to all living beings. After the ancestral worship ceremony was over, the human ancestors' enchantment dimmed. Yi Qinghan would definitely not disturb the heroic souls of their ancestors, so he led everyone away. The ancient killing god continued to protect the endless star system. All living beings returned to their ancestral land. The older generation of the insane sect once again paid their respects to their ancestors. Yi Qinghan went to the 9 underworlds alone. Back then, only the 9 underworlds escaped the calamity of the chaos state. Now, the Tao of order in the 9 underworlds had been perfected. It allowed the people of the chaos state to enter a simple reincarnation cycle and seize the Tao of hell. However, this place wasn't enough to affect hell, so hell wouldn't care. Yi Qinghan walked through the 9 underworlds. Everything was still familiar, but many people had changed. Reincarnation. With time. However, the 9 remoteness master was still alive. His cultivation base had already reached the pinnacle of the realm overlord realm. Palace. Yi Qinghan knocked on the door of the palace. There wasn't even a guard in the palace. Everything was still so simple. In the 9 underworlds palace, a white-haired old man raised his eyes slightly. They were filled with loneliness and indifference. There wasn't a single familiar person in this world. Perhaps death was the best consolation for him. How many years has it been since someone knocked on the door? The 9 underworlds master looked up at the sky and sighed. The tip of his nose was sour. He slowly walked out of the palace. Before the 9 underworlds master could be shocked, the figure directly knelt before him and kowtowed a few times. Disciple Yi Qinghan greets master. I've been busy and haven't been filial for many years. I hope you won't be angry. Yi Qinghan's voice was hoarse and dignified. It was so familiar to the 9 underworlds master. The 9 underworlds master's emotions, which had remained unchanged for thousands of years, finally changed. Tears streamed down his face and his body trembled. He looked at the person kneeling before him in disbelief. It was Yi Qinghan. He bent over and helped Yi Qinghan up. Is it Qinghan? I thought you had already fallen. The 9 underworlds master's face was wrinkled. He had long lost his vitality. Yi Qinghan stood up. Looking at the 9 underworld's master's aged appearance, he said with heartache, "Master, logically speaking, with your cultivation, you shouldn't have reached the end of your lifespan. Why are you so old?" The 9 underworld's master smiled faintly. He pulled Yi Qinghan's hand and walked towards the depths of the palace. It was the same palace. Back then, the 9 underworld's master violently beat Yi Qinghan up and wanted to forcefully take him in as a disciple. Now that he thought about it, Yi Qinghan suddenly smiled. His smile was so sad. The 9 underworld's master seemed to have also remembered the past. His old face smiled, but it was so ugly. Back then, you plundered the life essence of so many people, but countless of their souls scattered. This old man couldn't bear it and forced them into the 9 underworld's samsara. This caused my life force to be depleted, and I almost lost my life. However, the heavens took pity on me and bestowed me with an opportunity. That was how I was fortunate enough to enter the realm of Sector Lord and extend my life. Now, even the heavens can't save this old man. The 9 underworld's master sighed sadly. However, this old man is comforted. Back then, I saved more than half of the primal chaos province and the souls of all the living beings in the endless star system. After going through the samsara of order, they have returned to their rightful places. What you took away was only their life essence. Therefore, don't take it to heart and don't torture yourself. Boom! Yi Qinghan fell to his knees in front of the 9 underworld's master. He didn't hide it anymore and wept bitterly like a helpless child. The weakness in his heart had been pierced through, and he could no longer pretend to be strong. "Master, I'm sorry. I'm sorry." Yi Qinghan even felt a little despair. Why didn't he come to see this old master of his for so many years? He let him live alone for so many years. When he thought about how his master had lived alone for so many years, he hated himself. "Child, if you hadn't been so cruel back then, how could the 9 prefectures prosper today? You still came back to see me today. Even if this old man has died, I should be comforted." The 9 underworld's master sat on a chair and comforted Yi Qinghan, who was kneeling in front of him. How could Yi Qinghan forgive his own foolish actions? He didn't regret devouring the life force of all the living beings in the primal chaos province. However, he couldn't forgive himself for not coming to see this master of his for so many years. This master had taken care of him many times when he was young. "I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'll definitely let you live. No one can take away your life, not even the Lord of Hell." Yi Qinghan's eyes suddenly shone brightly. He grasped the 9 underworld's master's large hand and said resolutely. However, the 9 underworld's master grabbed Yi Qinghan and said nervously, "Forget it. Don't be busy for now. Accompany this old man on his last journey. I don't have any last wishes. As long as you're with me when I leave, I'll be very happy." "Master, I'm no longer the Yi Qinghan of the past. I have the ability to save you. This isn't the real end of your life. Your soul has been terrifyingly damaged because you've saved too many people. You can be saved with sacred medicine. I beg you, please give me a chance to make up for my sins. Otherwise, I'll feel guilty for the rest of my life." Yi Qinghan cried bitterly. "There's no time. You don't have to feel guilty. I did everything willingly. I'm even very happy. At least I didn't misjudge you. Actually, my life has already come to an end. However, I've always been waiting, but I didn't know what I was waiting for. Today I understand. I'm waiting for you." The 9 underworld's master smiled, but the light in his eyes dimmed. Chapter 2057. The 9 Serenity's master's regret dissipated, and his life force dissipated very quickly. He no longer had any desire to live. The light in his eyes dimmed, and the old hand that held Yi Qinghan dropped slowly. Yi Qinghan sensed that the 9 Serenity's master had given up on his desire to live. He frantically mobilized his life force and rushed it into his body. He roared, "Master, please give me a chance to make up for my mistakes. I will definitely save you. Please don't give up." Whoosh! Yi Qinghan's holy light soared into the sky, tearing apart the Nine Serenities' divine palace. Carrying the decaying body of the Nine Serenities' divine palace, he rushed out of the Nine Serenities' divine palace and appeared above the clouds. He roared, "Heavens, if you really want to thank me, please save this old man. He has sacrificed more for the chaos state than I have. Shouldn't he live a long life?" Boom, boom, boom. Thunder rumbled between heaven and earth. Dragons tore through the lightning and rushed out from the depths of the clouds. Sigh, a sigh that bemoaned the heavens and pitted the fate of mankind, shattered the thunder and reverberated for thousands of miles. How can I be the one who wants his life? I am not heartless. I am grateful. If not for all of you risking your lives, how could the Nine States be united? I have seen all of your actions. That is why I spent a lot of effort to delay the Nine Serenities' master's life until now. His life force is controlled by the order of hell, not the great Tao of the heavens of a small region. You can't change the order of hell. Let go and let him leave quietly. At least he doesn't have any last wishes. Yi Qinghan glared at the Nine Serenities' master unwillingly. He roared, "Get out of my way! He has been tortured for tens of thousands of years. Why didn't you remind me? Yes, it is my fault. But you could have reminded me. At least he wouldn't have lived so lonely. At least he wouldn't have suffered alone in the depths of the palace." The great Tao had emotions, and the heavens were speechless. I am just a heavenly Tao from a small domain. In the past, I wasn't perfect. I wasn't omnipotent. You were the one who allowed me to develop consciousness, order, and emotions. Before, I was just reacting subconsciously. How could Yi Qinghan accept this? The life force in his body boiled and rushed into the Nine Underworld's body. He forced open his skin and used his own blood to replace the Nine Underworld's blood. He replaced all of the Nine Underworld's necrotic functions in hopes of saving the Nine Underworld's master. Don't bother, child. You being able to do this old man is very comforted. Let me go with peace of mind. The Nine Remoteness master opened his tired eyes. The light in his eyes had dissipated, and there was no longer any hope of saving him. The main reason was that he did not want to waste Yi Qinghan's life force and energy, so he had given up on his desire to live. No. You still have plenty of time to enjoy your family, Yi Qinghan said firmly. I can't help you with anything. My talent and potential have all been used up. You don't have to do anything for me. Thank you very much. The Nine Remoteness master sighed sadly. Yi Qinghan's tears fell. The Nine Remoteness master was still thinking about how to give, but he did not want to ask for anything in return. When he thought about how he had ignored the Nine Remoteness master for so many years, he felt remorseful and guilty. He said hoarsely, "Master, I don't need you to do anything for me now. It's time for me to show my filial piety to you. Even if you don't do anything and just accompany the children and look at the land of the Nine States, I'll be satisfied. Why bother? I'm a dying man. Child, let me go." The Nine Remoteness master did not want to be a burden to Yi Qinghan. There was no need to go against the will of hell. Yi Qinghan had made up his mind. He had to save the Nine Remoteness master. Whoosh, whoosh. At this moment, the son of war, Zhang Ingshi, and the others rushed over. When they saw the Nine Remoteness master in Yi Qinghan's arms, they shook their heads. They knew it was impossible to save him. Yi Qinghan's eyes were ferocious. He looked at the two top experts from the outer realm and said in a low voice, "Do you have any ideas? No matter what the price is, I'll pay it." Fan Yin walked over. When he saw the tears in Yi Qinghan's eyes and his handsome face, he knew how important this person was to Yi Qinghan. He sighed and said, "It's not impossible to save him. If that immortal medicine is refined into a sacred pill, he can be saved. However, it's impossible for him to break through and become a saint. So, you're using an eternal saint position in exchange for his life. Is it worth it? It's worth it, Yi Qinghan replied without hesitation. Fan Yin smiled bitterly and shook his head. Even a saint would fight for such an immortal pill. Yi Qinghan wanted to give it to a dying old man whose cultivation was only at the realm lord level. All right, I'll go get it for you. You protect his life. I'll return with the immortal pill in 2 years at most. Fan Yin said faintly. Yi Qinghan looked at Zhang Yingshi and Demon Sovereign Fa Zhen and said in a low voice, I'll have to trouble the two of you to accompany senior sister to the sky-piercing church. Return early. Zhang Yingshi and Demon Sovereign Fa Zhen nodded. They turned and left the 9 Remoteness Master with Fan Yin. At this moment, Emperor Yi also walked over. He looked at the 9 Serenities Master, who had aged so much that his appearance had almost changed. He burst into tears as he held the 9 Serenities Master's aged hand in his small hand and said respectfully, Master, I'm your son. I've already reincarnated back then, and I've only recently returned to my position. Please open your eyes and look at me. Let me accompany you for a few more years to make up for the guilt we've felt all these years. There was finally some light in the 9 Remoteness Lord's eyes. He had never cried before, but when he saw Emperor Ye's sincere feelings, he actually shed a murky tear. He said in a trembling voice, The greatest happiness in my life was forcefully taking you two as my disciples. I'm very gratified. I'm really, really gratified, sob sob sob. Emperor Yi burst into tears. Yi Qinghan also couldn't hide the sadness in his heart. He hugged his old body and knelt on the ground, crying bitterly. The group of elders from the insane sect all knew the 9 Remoteness Master. They couldn't hide their sadness. They gathered in a circle and cried silently. No matter how strong a person was, they would cry. You've all grown up. Actually, I'm not lonely because I still have you in my heart. The 9 Remoteness Master had expressed his feelings of loneliness for so many years. However, this sentence hurt the experts of the insane sect and made them cry loudly. The 9 Remoteness Master was the only elder who was still alive. Although his cultivation was the lowest among the group, he was the elder they respected the most. Master, please rest well. I'll definitely save you. You've given us a chance to be filial to you. Your time is not up yet. You've only used up your life to help most of the living beings in the chaos state. This is what we owe you. Please don't feel burdened. Otherwise, we won't be able to atone for our sins. Yi Qinghan suppressed his sadness and comforted him in a low voice. Senior, please don't worry. All resources are for people to use. None of them are wasted. We're still young. We can still become eternal saints without elixirs. The people of the insane sect all knelt down and tried to persuade him. The 9 Remoteness Master smiled. He closed his eyes, but tears still flowed down. Yi Qinghan used his life to keep the 9 Remoteness Master alive and brought him back to the Imperial City. Chapter 2058. In the Imperial City there was a courtyard in the inner city. Divine herbs were everywhere and the fragrance was overwhelming. Yi Qinghan called everyone out to give the 9 Serenities Master the best environment to live in. The 9 Serenities Master was different from others who were dying. He could be considered a dead man. His body was dead and his soul was destroyed. He was only left with a strand of vitality to wait for Yi Qinghan. Therefore, no matter how powerful the divine elixir was, it couldn't bring a dead man back to life. Only the eternal holy elixir could exchange a sage position for a dying man. No one would exchange an eternal holy elixir for a dead realm lord. Even their own father might not be willing to save him. However, Yi Qinghan saved him without hesitation. Not only the 9 Serenities Master, even if the other elders of the arrogant sect were in the same situation, he would save them too. Yi Qinghan sealed the 9 Serenities Master and used his own vitality to maintain his basic life cycle. He hoped to change his fate and seize these 2 precious years to buy time for Fan Yin. A year and a half later, Fan Yin, Zhang Yingshi and Fazhen Demon Lord appeared outside the sky-reaching church. Fazhen Demon Lord didn't enter the sky-reaching church but waited outside to rest. Zhang Yingshi stayed behind to accompany him. The 2 of them used their maximum speed to save time. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to return in more than a year. Fan Yin didn't dare to delay and entered the sky-reaching great world. The sky-reaching great sage was still sitting on his rocking chair. His white hair fluttered in the wind and he was surrounded by immortal qi. Before he opened his eyes, he knew that Fan Yin had arrived. "Old man, have you refined the eternal holy elixir? Quickly give me one." Fan Yin rushed over and said hurriedly, "Why are you in such a hurry? It's not suitable for you to take the eternal holy elixir now." The sky-reaching great sage shook his rocking chair and asked. Fan Yin hurriedly said, "It's not that I want to use it. It's one of Yi Qinghan's seniors. He's only a sector lord, right? His life force has dissipated and he's already decayed. He's considered a dead person and only has a strand of life force left. Yi Qinghan wants to use a saint pill to save him, so he asked me to take one." The Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage frowned and opened his eyes. He turned his chair and looked directly at Fan Yin. He said sternly, "Nonsense. The eternal divine elixir represents the position of a sage. There are only 9 of them. He wants to use one to save a rotten sector lord. Instead of rebuking him, you even want to help him get the eternal divine elixir." Fan Yin smiled bitterly and said helplessly, he cried, "This person is very important to him. If you don't agree, he will hate you for the rest of his life." Cry. The Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage smiled and said mockingly, "Such a heartless person would cry? You've misjudged him, old man," Fan Yin said firmly. "I've never seen him cry before, but this time, he's crying so hard. Especially after seeing his 9 provinces domain, I've come to understand a lot. His ideals, his perseverance, and his faith are many times more noble than mine or even the eternal saints. If you see him, you might feel inferior." "Ha ha ha ha!" The Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage laughed loudly. His white hair flew in the wind. He looked at Fan Yin and asked, "Is that so? What kind of world have you seen for you to admire it so much?" "I've brought a historical record of the 9 continents. You can take a look. Most of them are about the small galaxies in his 9 continents domain. After you read them, you will understand that the sages today are inferior to their emperors." Fan Yin waved his hand and hundreds of books appeared in front of the Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage. The Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage used his consciousness and flipped through the books. At first, he flipped through them quickly. Slowly, he slowed down. His expression changed from suspicion to shock and even confusion. "Every place has its own people. It seems like I've underestimated the Kuang sect," the Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage said. Fan Yin looked at the Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage's admiring gaze and said hurriedly, "Old man, I beg you. Give them to me. Time waits for no one." The Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage stretched his back and his bones cracked. He said lazily, "I haven't moved for many years. My bones are loose. Sigh, let's go out for a walk. I'll see what the world you admire is like." Fan Yin was shocked. Many people came to meet the Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage, but were not allowed to. Even the eternal holy sages did not have the right to meet him. This time, he wanted to take the initiative. "Let's go." Whoosh! Before Fan Yin could react, the void twisted. In a few breaths' time, when he opened his eyes again, he was in the land of despair. Zhang Yingshi and the Demon Lord were stunned. They were in the Heavenly Grandmaster Church, and now they were in the land of despair. In 5 breaths' time, they could only blink their eyes a few more times. What could they do in such a short time? They had traversed half the world. The heavenly Grand Master Grand Sage placed his hands behind his back. His white hair danced in the wind and his divine chi surrounded him. He said calmly, "Where is the entrance to the 9 continents? Bring me there." At this moment, Zhang Yingshi and the demon lord saw the heavenly Grand Master Grand Sage. Their hair stood on end. They realized how terrifying the heavenly Grand Master Grand Sage was. This level of cultivation was thousands of times higher than that of a sage. "Greetings, great sage. Greetings, great sage." The two of them knelt respectfully behind the heavenly Grand Master Grand Sage. They did not even dare to raise their heads. The heavenly Grand Master Grand Sage did not even turn his head. He said calmly, "If you want to kneel, kneel here." Zhang Yingshi and Lord Fazhen did not dare to say anything. Fan Yin said coquettishly, "Old man, don't tease a child. Let's go to the land of the 9 continents. You will understand when we get there. I am not exaggerating." After she finished speaking, she helped the two of them up and ran into the land of despair. Whoosh! The heavenly Grand Master Grand Sage sensed the direction and waved his hand. He brought the three of them to the entrance of the 9 continents. The heavenly Grand Master Grand Sage's body flashed and he entered the land of the 9 continents. He pressed on the stone tablet and waved his hand, crushing it. He said calmly, "When I approve, I will erect the tablet myself. Otherwise, how can it be worthy of this tablet?" Fan Yin laughed bitterly. This tablet took her a lot of effort. She did not expect it to be destroyed so quickly. In the Imperial City, there is a divine dragon tripod. Fan Yin reminded. How could the heavenly Grand Master Grand Sage not sense Yi Qinghan's location? Before Fan Yin finished speaking, they appeared in the inner city of the Imperial City. The arrival of the heavenly Grand Master Grand Sage did not even alarm the great Tao of the 9 continents. It was as if an ordinary person had appeared in a small region. He did not cause any changes. He walked towards Yi Qinghan's residence. Fan Yin followed closely behind. The group of experts from the mad sect waited outside the residence. When they saw the heavenly Grand Master Grand Sage and the 3 experts behind him, they did not know whether to stop them or not. Fan Yin was also afraid that this group of people would blaspheme the dignity of the heavenly Grand Master Grand Sage. She said hurriedly, "My master is here. Why don't you let little Yi welcome him?" Yi Qinghan heard Fan Yin's words and rushed out. When he saw the heavenly Grand Master Grand Sage, he knelt down and begged, "Master, please save my first master. He may not be strong, but in my heart, he is great. He is even greater than the sages. Please have mercy. I will show you the same respect in the future." This small region has suffered too much. People who have grown up in suffering know what they are shouldering. Of course, I can't guarantee that everyone can reach this step after experiencing suffering. It depends on what kind of people they are around. A look of understanding flashed across the heavenly Grand Master Grand Sage's eyes. His aura became even more extraordinary as he nodded his head in agreement with Yi Qinghan's words. "I understand." The heavenly Grand Master Grand Sage laughed and said, "I thought that after so many years, I had seen through the mortal world. However, I did not know that everyone is different. I have learned a lot today. Traveling thousands of miles is better than cultivating for thousands of years. Old man, don't be cooped up at home all day. Be careful that you don't fall sick. You are out of touch with society. Now, you don't even know how many powerful sects there are in the greater world. You don't even know how many eternal sages there are." Fan Yin teased. The heavenly Grand Master Grand Sage glanced at Fan Yin and stepped into his courtyard. He looked at the 9 Serenities Master and shook his head. He said plainly, "Who told you that the eternal sage elixir can save a dead person?" Yi Qinghan looked at Fan Yin and lowered his head bitterly. He did not expect that the eternal sage elixir could not save the 9 Serenities Master. Whoosh! At this moment, the heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage waved his hand to guide the two elements of Taiji. The power of yin and yang in the heavens and the earth gathered in the center of his palm. He condensed it into a blade and slashed it towards the Nine Serenities Master's old body. Yi Qinghan was shocked. Before he could stop it, the blade had already slashed into the Nine Serenities Master's physical body. The deathly aura on the Nine Serenities Master's body dissipated and the order of death was destroyed. The order of his physical body was filled with the power of yin and yang. His wrinkled skin shone brightly as yin and yang intersected. His white hair turned black and his blood was rejuvenated. The Nine Serenities Master's soul, which was originally enveloped by the origin of death, was torn apart. The Nine Serenities Master had awakened. This was a great sage. Changing one's fate was just a matter of waving his hand. Yi Qinghan and the others narrowed their eyes as they looked at the Nine Serenities Master in shock. At this moment, their understanding of the great sage's level deepened. Is this the eternal sage? Everyone was shocked and did not know what to do. Zhang Yingshi and the magic god demon lord were experienced upper-level cultivators. They thought that they were no longer mortals. However, they realized that in front of the great sage they were mere mortals. In fact, they were not even mortals. At most, they were ants. "Thank you, Master. Thank you. Disciple kowtows to you." Yi Qinghan knelt down and kowtowed 3 times in a row. He was extremely respectful and didn't betray his heart in the slightest. "No need to thank me. Take it as a token of appreciation for helping me understand some things. Ha ha. I did not expect that after living for so many years, I would be taught by a brat." The heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage laughed and left. In a flash, he was already at the end of the 9 continents. He waved his hand and erected a stone tablet. On it, the words, "Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage, kill without mercy," were carved. These 9 words represented the limit of the Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage's aura. The Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage's words were like rotting ants in front of this stone tablet. The Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage left the land of the 9 continents and turned into a mortal old man. Once again, he traveled the mountains and rivers and looked at the world. The more he looked, the more enlightened he became. In a courtyard in the inner city of the Imperial City, the 9 Serenities Master did not understand how he survived. He looked at his skin that was like that of a newborn baby. Yin and yang transformed into a treasure light and circulated. His golden body was many times stronger than before. Before he fell into a coma, he was in the realm of a realm lord. However, he did not know what realm he was in now. He felt that he could destroy the land of the 9 continents with a wave of his hand and kill everyone in front of him with a thought. What happened to me? The 9 Serenities Master extended his hand and looked at his palm. His eyes were filled with confusion. "It was an eternal sage who saved you. Master, don't worry. Your lifespan now is at least longer than mine," Yi Qinghan said excitedly. "Did you find him? How much did you pay?" The 9 Serenities Master asked hurriedly. Yi Qinghan smiled embarrassedly and explained, "There are only 4 eternal sages in all the worlds. They are not people who can be hired with any price. They are already transcendental. He is my master from outside the world. You don't have to worry. He just came to take a look out of curiosity and saved you." "Congratulations, Senior." Everyone from the Kuang sect knelt on one knee and congratulated the 9 Serenities Master on his recovery. The 9 Serenities Master stood up in confusion. His old and strong face showed a hint of excitement. He extended his hand to help everyone up. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew around them. The gentle yin and yang forces supported everyone gently. Even Yi Qinghan almost lost his self-control. Chapter 2060. The Nine Serenities Lord had become much more powerful than before. Zhang Yingshi and Demon Lord Fazhen looked at the Nine Serenities Master in shock, unable to determine his true combat strength. My current cultivation level. Why is it so strong? What level is it? The Nine Serenities Master could not understand. It was like a mortal suddenly becoming a god. He could not control it. Below the sage plane, but above the upper plane, Zhang Yingshi said with certainty. A great sage's work must be excellent. Yi Qinghan was also shocked. He did not expect the heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage to raise the Nine Serenities Master's cultivation level by so much. However, Fan Yin shrugged and said helplessly, I have some bad news. I hope you won't be angry when you hear it. I'm afraid the Nine Serenities Master's cultivation level will stop at this level for the rest of his life. He won't be able to make it perfect. Although Yi Qinghan could not bear it, the Nine Serenities Master was very excited. He would not be able to reach such a level of cultivation even if he worked hard for his entire life. Now that he had survived and become so powerful, what was there to be dissatisfied about? So what if he could not become a saint? I'm very satisfied. Really. Fairy, please help me thank the great sage when you return. The Nine Serenities Master was full of gratitude. He was not unhappy at all. Yi Qinghan smiled and said, Master, you can enjoy your old age in the land of the Nine States. Leave the war to the children. Ha ha ha, I'm tired. I don't want to move any more. I'll stay in the arrogant sect and take care of the children. I'll train some geniuses to be your backup. The Nine Serenities Master laughed heartily. Yi Qinghan nodded. This was a good arrangement. At least there would be someone to accompany the Nine Serenities Master. He would have something to do and would not think too much. Then, Yi Qinghan led the Nine Serenities Master into the arrogant sect and introduced him to everyone. The Nine Serenities Master instantly became the most senior person in the land of the Nine States. He was even more senior than Yi Qinghan. After settling the Nine Serenities Master, Yi Qinghan passed a large number of secret techniques to the Nine Serenities Master. He wanted him to understand them before teaching the children of the arrogant sect. This would save him a lot of trouble. Half a month later, all the matters in the Nine States were settled. Yi Qinghan heaved a sigh of relief. He bade farewell to everyone and left with the older generation masters of the Kuang sect, the son of war, Zhang Yingshi, and the others. When he arrived at the exit of the 9 prefectures, he couldn't help but clench his fists as he looked at the heaven-connecting steel. With this steel here, even the holy emperor of a holy empire would have to think twice before entering. With this inscription, Yi Qinghan had no more reservations. He led the group into the greater world, crossing hundreds of cities. It took them more than a year to reach the intersection between the blessed Buddha Temple and the eternal sacred land of Sword Dao. Although blessed Buddha Temple wanted to kill Yi Qinghan, they chose not to do so at this moment, allowing them to pass through blessed Buddha Temple's territory. Yi Qinghan led the group into Fire Beacon City. The blood-robed guards had all retreated, and the city's surroundings became much more lively. There were many more adventurers. The son of war and Zhang Yingshi seemed to be unwilling to wait any longer. They said frankly, Brother Yi, if you don't have anything else, how about we head straight to Panlong Mountain? Because of the Kuang sect, the son of war, Zhang Yingshi, and the others had wasted a few years. Yi Qinghan was very apologetic and he quickly nodded in agreement. No problem. We will return to the heaven-suppressing palace first and make arrangements for the Kuang sect brothers. We will depart immediately. When Fan Yin heard that the 3 of them were going to Panlong Mountain, her eyes brightened and she rubbed her hands together. I'll go too. I can protect you all. Are you okay with that? A black line appeared on the son of Zhan's forehead. Only then did he remember that Fan Yin was still beside him. He couldn't help but pat his head in regret. He looked at Yi Qinghan and Zhang Yingshi with a bitter smile, hoping that they would reject this valiant woman. Yi Qinghan was too embarrassed to say no, and he could only look at Zhang Yingshi. Zhang Yingshi knew how to do favors, and he immediately said, "If little sister Fan Yin wants to go, then that's for the best. It's really inconvenient for a woman like me to follow two men. Furthermore, little sister Fan Yin is stronger than both of you. At least I don't have to worry about her." Yi Qinghan and the Son of War looked at each other, and they were speechless. Wu Zong wanted to go as well, but when he saw that Yi Qinghan and the Son of War did not even want to bring Fan Yin along, he was even more embarrassed to say anything. Fan Yin looked at the two's expression, and her eyes widened. She placed her hands on her waist and said angrily, "You two brats are still not willing? No. There is no such thing. If senior sister wants to go, junior brother will raise both hands in agreement. I just don't know if brother Son of War has any objections." Yi Qinghan immediately abandoned the Son of War and stood on Fan Yin's side. The Son of War was speechless, and he thought angrily, "Birds of a feather flock together. This senior sister and junior brother, neither of them are good people." However, the Son of War did not dare to offend this terrifying woman, and he quickly explained, "It's nothing. If senior sister Fan Yin wants to go, I have no objections. It's just that after discussing with Brother Yi, he said that he will not bring anyone, just the two of us." Previously, he agreed to Headmaster Zhang's participation, and I thought that he would reject senior sister's participation. That's why I was a little surprised. The Son of War was even more ruthless. Not only did he push the blame to Yi Qinghan, he even put a huge label on him. Yi Qinghan. Looking at Yi Qinghan's embarrassed expression, the Son of War turned his head away and ignored Yi Qinghan's murderous gaze. The insane sex members held back their laughter and pretended that they did not know anything. They turned around and walked towards the teleportation array. The group quickly returned to the heaven-suppressing prefecture city. After delegating the tasks to the others, Yi Qinghan entered the courtyard and met with Green Lotus Sword Immortal. Green Lotus Sword Immortal stared at Yi Qinghan with her clear eyes and said, "I have a mission for you. Get the other half of the Green Lotus origin back to me as soon as possible." Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly. The other half of the Green Lotus origin must be in the hands of the Saint Empire. How could he possibly get it? "I don't care what method you use, but the faster the better. I need the other half of the origin to recover my strength, or I will be exposed sooner or later. By then, the entire insane sect will be affected," Green Lotus Sword Immortal warned. Yi Qinghan was helpless and he could only comfort her. All right, just wait for a while. I will think of a way to get the Green Lotus origin back." Green Lotus Sword Immortal rolled her eyes at Yi Qinghan and requested, "I don't want you to think of a way. I just want you to get it back. I believe in your capabilities. Don't disappoint me." She was really asking for too much. Yi Qinghan helplessly rubbed his forehead. He and the Saint Empire were like fire and water. Getting the Green Lotus origin back from the Saint Empire was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. "If you can't get it back, don't come and see me." Green Lotus Sword Immortal waved her hand impatiently. Yi Qinghan raised his brows and asked, "What if I get it back?" "If you get it back, you can do whatever you want. Before you get it back, stop talking nonsense." Green Lotus Sword Immortal replied bluntly. Yi Qinghan shrugged and left the courtyard. At this moment, the Child of War, Fan Yin and Zhang Yingshi were already waiting at the entrance of the insane sect. When they saw Yi Qinghan coming out, they immediately requested to leave. Yi Qinghan sighed and followed the three into the distance. Chapter 2061. Coiling Dragon Mountain was located in the northeast of the Shrouding Sky Secret Realm, northwest of the Sky-reaching cult. It was a dangerous place with endless dragon veins. The ferocious beasts here were comparable to upper-level cultivators. Some of the ferocious beasts were not saints, but they had the strength of saints. However, their intelligence was not high and they were the most dangerous ones. They didn't care about feelings and didn't know about great saints. Yi Qinghan, Zhang Yingshi, the son of battle, and Fan Yin, these four experts were all powerful existences. Their speed was extremely fast, and in the blink of an eye, they had covered 1,000 miles. The adventurers on the way only felt a gust of wind, and the four were already far away. Zhang Yingshi, Fan Yin, and the son of battle were familiar with Coiling Dragon Mountain. They had almost reached the extreme north, and they still had to cross a vast ocean. After more than a year, they appeared in the north of the Investiture God sect. This was the sect of the Investiture God sect. The mountain range was vast and majestic. The ferocious beasts were 1,000 meters tall, and they could even kill birds. With a roar, the mountain was in a state of panic. The atmosphere changed abruptly, and it made people's hair stand on end. Zhang Yingshi stood on top of a towering mountain and looked down. After confirming the location, he leaped and appeared in front of the three. He pointed at the dark clouds in front of them and said indifferently, "If we keep going forward for another half a year, we will see an ocean. If we keep going deeper, we will reach the Coiling Dragon Island range in about 3 months. It is comparable in size to a holy empire and an immortal mansion. That is the location of the Coiling Dragon Mountain secret realm. It would take another year or so. The vastness of the great world was not something that could be measured by humans. This was just across 2 holy lands, and it was a straight line, which saved half of the journey, but it still took 2 years. If they wanted to cross the entire great world, it would take them at least a few hundred years to do it. The strength of these 4 people was comparable to peak upper-level cultivators, and their speed was second only to saints. If it was other people, it would take them at least a few hundred years to reach Coiling Dragon Mountain. The 4 rested for a few days, and after adjusting their condition, they didn't stop and instead sped up. Half a year later, a turbulent sea appeared in front of them. The waves created a monstrous force, and ordinary ships couldn't move at all. Ho-ho-ho, dong-dong-dong. Everyone was exhausted, and most of the divine power in their bodies had been used up. They had no choice but to rest. Fan Yin pursed his lips and gestured toward the northeast. In less than 4 months, we will reach the Coiling Dragon Island. However, the astral winds on the ocean are too strong, and the tearing force is not inferior to the cracks in the sky. Once we encounter a strong hurricane on the ocean, the upper level will be finished. That's why I said that if you want to enter Coiling Dragon Mountain, you have to be prepared to die. The greater the risk, the greater the rewards. There's also a Coiling Dragon Mountain mystic realm there. The space in the mystic realm is even bigger. I heard that there was once a great sage there, named Great Sage Coiling Dragon. However, he had a conflict with the Sacred Lord and was suppressed. The world entrance is stuck at the dragon vein of Coiling Dragon Mountain. The wealth in the mystic realm far exceeds that of other mystic realms. Fan Yin nodded as well, reminding them, the Child of War is right. Actually, there are still some secrets you don't know. A saint had once been lost there, and his fate is unknown. He is the Saint of the Sky Demon Cult. What? The Saint of the Sky Demon Cult is in the Coiling Dragon Mystic Realm? The Child of War and Zhang Yingshi were shocked, and they both looked at Fan Yin. Fan Yin nodded affirmatively, replying, "My old man is definitely right. He wanted to break through to the Great Sage Realm, so he took the risk and entered the Coiling Dragon Mystic Realm. In the end, he disappeared without a trace. My old man went to look for him, but he couldn't find him. F***CK, you're sending us to our deaths. This divine bird isn't going to the Coiling Dragon Mystic Realm. I'll just stroll around Coiling Dragon Mountain." The divine bird suddenly jumped out and said angrily, "I had a son at an old age, and I haven't enjoyed my grandchildren yet. My wife is also as beautiful as a flower. How can I hang around with you?" Yi Qinghan, the Child of War, Zhang Yingshi, and Fan Yin looked at the divine bird in disdain, unwilling to respond. The divine bird's feathers bristled, and it looked at Yi Qinghan speechlessly, asking, "You're not going to die, are you?" "I'm not going to go crazy with you." Yi Qinghan shrugged and said indifferently, "It's okay, I won't force you. If you want to go, then go. I'll take your son and wife with me." The divine bird, shameless scoundrel! The divine bird cursed inwardly. It hung its head dejectedly, not even wanting to respond to Yi Qinghan. The three great experts had never seen such a divine pet before, and they all smiled without saying a word. This time, everyone rested for a longer time, until the divine power in their bodies was replenished. The divine power flowed through their divine bodies until it was enough to withstand an ordinary hurricane. Only then did they prepare to embark on the journey. Aiming in the direction, Zhang Yingshi rose into the air and walked at the front, heading straight for Coiling Dragon Island. The Child of War was in the middle, while Fanning and Yi Qinghan were on his left and right. The Yin-Yang 8 trigrams Taoist robes activated, blocking the raging winds for the Child of War. After all, the Child of War was the weakest in terms of cultivation. The raging winds tore the four apart, and the waves swept tens of thousands of feet. If they weren't careful, they would be swept into the sea. Be careful. Once you're swept into the sea, the power of the sea beasts is not something we can contend with. Zhang Yingshi reminded in a low voice. The raging winds dispersed the sound, and the three behind could only hear a vague warning. Whoosh! A huge fish soared into the sky, and its huge tail smashed towards the four of them. Whoosh whoosh whoosh! Yi Qinghan and the others were shocked. They quickly moved horizontally, dodging the attack of the fish. Boom! The fish's huge tail smashed through the surface of the sea, and the waves were terrifying. Wave after wave, they blasted into the distance. If the tail hit them, they would definitely be smashed into the sea. The Child of War and Zhang Yingshi didn't have the eternal divine armor to protect them, and their bodies might be crushed. The Child of War and Zhang Yingshi were drenched in cold sweat. They were scared out of their wits. Fly higher. The fish here are extremely strong, and their killing power is not inferior to the upper level. Their bodies are even stronger. Once we fall into the sea, we'll definitely die, Fanning reminded. The airflow in the air was unstable, and the four of them didn't dare to fly too high or too low. They didn't dare to fly too fast either, for fear that they would fall into the trap. The weather on the surface of the sea was constantly changing. One moment, the sun was shining brightly, and the next moment, it was raining heavily with lightning. The four of them held divine weapons in their hands and were extremely vigilant. They faced the raging winds and traveled against the world. Yi Qinghan was walking at the front, forcibly tearing through the astral winds and breaking the path for the three behind him. A few months later, they saw a continent surrounded by clouds. However, everyone knew that this was an island, a mountain range, and a small continent. We're here, we're here! Ha ha! The four of them landed on the beach of the island from the sky with their hair disheveled and their sweat pouring down like rain. A gust of cold air rushed towards them, and the salty smell made them frown. Chapter 2062. On the beach, shells and shrimps swam about. Everything was in its original state. Yi Qinghan looked at the blue sky. White clouds flowed slowly, and a waterfall of fresh water fell from the sky in the distance. The rumbling sound was unceasing, and the dense spiritual energy was surging. It was like a fairyland, but the rolling pressure and the smell of blood reminded them that this Panlong mountain was definitely not a fairyland, but a danger zone. Whoosh! Rustling sounds could be heard as they walked on the beach. The environment is not bad. It is even more beautiful than the Holy Lands. The spiritual energy is dense and surpasses the Holy Lands. No one has been here for countless years. Immortal herbs are everywhere. If not for the many vicious beasts, this is definitely a fairyland on earth, Fan Yin exclaimed. The Son of War and Zhang Yingshi were both familiar with the Holy Lands. At this moment they also exclaimed in admiration. This was also their first time here. In the past, they had only heard about the dangers of this place from the old man. Yi Qinghan nodded. In terms of environment, this place was definitely the most beautiful place he had ever seen. The Son of War took out a map. It was the map of this coiling dragon island. It seemed like he had made ample preparations. Yi Qinghan looked at the map. It turned out that this island had long been separated from the mainland and was located in a vast ocean. The rolling ocean was endless and had no end in sight. If one could cross the ocean, they would be able to reach the distant Oshi Holy Land. At least in theory, that was the case. However, no one had ever taken this sea route, not even the saints. Everyone was just speculating. No one knew if there were other continents in the depths of this ocean. This long and narrow island range is 30 billion miles in length and several billion miles in width. It's not even believable to say that it's an island range. It's completely considered a continent and is even larger than some holy lands. However, it's separated from the continent and located in the ocean, so everyone is used to calling it the Coiling Dragon Island Range. The mountains on the entire Coiling Dragon Island Range are called the Coiling Dragon Mountains. The mountains here are like spiraling dragons entrenched on the continent. They extend up and down, and some even reach into the depths of the clouds like dragons raising their heads. The Son of War pointed at the map and explained in detail. Where is the Coiling Dragon Mystery Realm? Yi Qinghan asked curiously. The Son of Battle pulled open the map and pointed at the northeastern part of the Pan Long Mountain. He said calmly, "This place is diagonal to us. We have to cross the Pan Long Island Range, so the distance is far more than 30 billion miles. I estimate that it will take us more than a year to cross it." Of course, this is just a theoretical estimate, because the road is dangerous and filled with ferocious beasts. It is possible that we will die before we even reach half the distance. Fanning pointed to the eastern part of the map and said in a crisp voice, "If our target is the secret realm, we can start from the eastern part. That is a plain where there are few ferocious creatures." Yi Qinghan shook his head and rejected Fan Yin's suggestion. He reminded her in a deep voice, "We might not even be able to survive Pan Long Mountain. If we enter the secret realm directly, the mortality rate is 90%. So it's better to take it one step at a time." Zhang Yingshi also agreed. "Let's keep a low profile. Don't think of getting fat in one bite. Let's train slowly. The ferocious beasts in the periphery are at least weaker and fewer. Let's grow slowly. After all, the three of you are still a little lacking. If you have the opportunity, this mountain range can allow you to reach the upper level. When the time comes, the four of us will join forces and have a higher chance of surviving in the secret realm." The four of them discussed and decided to walk through the mountain range first. They would train in Pan Long Mountain before considering whether to enter the secret realm. The divine bird cried and wailed, begging Yi Qinghan to turn back to the mainland. However, Yi Qinghan was not willing to do so. If he did not have the opportunity to come here, he would rather die than go back. The four of them rushed into Pan Long Mountain with the divine bird. The smell of decay hit them in the face. Some strange creatures wandered in the mountains. Many of these creatures had never been seen before. Fanning and the others could only rely on legends and the explanations of the older generation to know their identities. Danger approached step by step. Xia Jilong, Xian Xiu, and the 10 divine generals were stationed in a spacious mountain range in the primeval forest of the Xixiang Holy Land. They were looking for a way to kill Yi Qinghan. Not long after, a blood-robed guard appeared in the valley and said respectfully, "I'm here on the orders of the saint to inform your highness that Yi Qinghan, the Son of Battle, Fanning, and Zhang Yingshi are heading to the Coiling Dragon's secret realm. As for what to do, the saint said that your highness should know." Upon hearing this news, Xia Jilong was not shocked. Instead, he was delighted. He grinned and said, "Good, good, good. This is a heaven-sent opportunity. How many experts have died in the coiling dragon's secret realm? If you enter this place and I kill you, no one will know. Even the sky-reaching school will not be able to blame me. Xia Zhilong suppressed his excitement and said to Xian Xiu, I'll give you 1 month to gather 100 blood-robed guards and bounty hunters. The more, the better. Prepare to set off for Pan Long Mountain. Yes, Your Highness, Xian Xiu bowed and said. Whoosh, Xia Zhilong waved his hand, and a dragon boat appeared in the valley. It could carry a few thousand people. The 10 divine generals and Xian Xiu rushed out in all directions, mobilizing the blood-robed guards and Holy Empire experts in the various cities to find bounty hunters and lure them into action. In less than a month, more than 100 experts had gathered in the valley. They were all upper realm experts. Although they were not as strong as the 10 divine generals and Xian Xiu, they had the advantage in numbers. Xia Zhilong looked down at everyone and said, Let's go. Our destination is Pan Long Mountain. As long as you make a great contribution, this emperor will definitely reward you according to your contributions. If you make a great contribution, this emperor will help you establish a powerful sect. As the saying went, when there was a great reward, there would be brave men. Establishing a powerful sect was the dream of many people. If they survived this and made a great contribution, they would be able to establish their own sect and establish a powerful sect that could be passed down for eternity. When everyone saw Xia Zhilong's promise, they were all moved. Xia Zhilong had only said that he wanted to kill Yi Qinghan. In reality, he wanted to kill Fan Yin, the son of battle, and Zhang Yingshi as well. Therefore, this group of people was destined to become sacrifices. Even if they succeeded, Xia Zhilong would not let them live. Whoosh! The dragon boat soared into the sky. It consumed an endless amount of energy, and its speed was even faster than Yi Qinghan's. Although it took more than a month, it was only 10 days slower than Yi Qinghan's group before reaching the sky above Pan Long Island. Whoosh! 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 More than 100 experts landed on Pan Long Island. Looking at the fairyland like Pan Long Island, many of them fell in love with this place and were unwilling to leave. What a perfect holy land! There are no humans living here, everyone exclaimed. Xia Zhilong's eyes flashed with a hint of mockery. He thought to himself, a bunch of reckless people. They don't even know the dangers of Pan Long Island. They actually think that this is a perfect holy land. With the dangers here, I'm afraid that even a saint would not dare to be high profile. Xian Xiu understood the dangers of this island. He said to everyone in a deep voice, Don't underestimate this place. Everyone, stay alert. Don't scatter. Find Yi Qinghan as soon as possible and kill him. It's just a small Yi Qinghan. Your Highness, you think too highly of him. Even if his cultivation can handle 1 upper-level realm expert, he can't handle 2 upper-level realm experts at the same time. As long as we find him, he'll die without a doubt, a powerful bounty hunter said proudly. Xia Zhilong smiled and said calmly, I hope so. Let's go in. Chapter 2063. The mountain range was like spring all year round, and there were a lot of spirit herbs. Many of them were more than 10,000 years old, and were very suitable for pseudo-sector lord-level expert. Yi Qinghan didn't stand on ceremony. He mobilized his star-twining vine and other god pets and took away all the spirit herbs that were more than 10,000 years old. Fan Yin and the rest were stunned. Why are you so poor? We didn't come to Pan Long Mountain for these ordinary spirit herbs. Fan Yin scolded in disdain. Yi Qinghan rolled his eyes and retorted, You guys don't know how expensive the daily necessities are. I'm not like you guys, the true disciples of saints. I have so many children waiting to be fed. The spirit herbs that you guys don't care about are treasures to me. The son of battle and the rest shook their heads. Yi Qinghan was such a calculative sect master. They were really lucky. But luckily, The star-twining vine had tens of thousands of vines. Its speed of grabbing spirit herbs was much faster than all of them combined. With the god bird's help, it was like a wild goose plucking feathers. The Panlong Mountain that was plundered by Yi Qinghan probably wouldn't recover its vitality in less than 10,000 years. Boom! Just as the four of them and their spirit pets were moving forward, a huge flying beast swooped down from the sky. Its sharp claws tore apart the mountain rocks and clawed at the four of them. It was so strong that it even uprooted an ancient tree. The mountain rocks were like rotten tofu and were directly cut into pieces. Scram! Yi Qinghan didn't hold back and waved his sword madly. It was like a rainbow that wanted to defy the heavens. It directly slammed into the beast's claws. Instantly, blood splattered everywhere and dyed half the mountain red. Screech! The beast screamed. Its claws were almost cut open by Yi Qinghan. It flew up into the sky pathetically. Its screams resounded through the valley and reverberated thousands of miles away. Fan Yin and the rest could only shrug at Yi Qinghan's savagery. With him around, as long as they didn't meet any saint-level beasts, there wouldn't be any trouble. Yi Qinghan and Fan Yin were both wearing Yin-Yang 8 trigrams Taoist robes. They stood to the left and right of the two. Zhang Yingshi was still in front, ready to attack or retreat. The Son of War was in the center, observing the direction and vigilant of his surroundings. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Pa pa pa. The star-twining vine was galloping around the coiling dragon island. This was its world. It devoured the powerful beasts to its heart's content. Some beasts that were dozens of feet tall couldn't withstand the entanglement of dozens of vines and were devoured alive. However, as long as the divine bird asked for the spirit herbs, the star-twining vine was very tactful and didn't devour them. The divine bird temporarily forgot about the danger. It looked at the stalks of top-notch divine medicine and grinned evilly. Even the little divine bird and the little miser were mocking it with disdain. After traveling for a few days, nothing particularly dangerous happened. The divine bird smiled smugly and said, "It seems that the people of this world are just bragging to scare people. How can there be any danger here? This divine bird can sweep through everything. In the future, I'll set up camp here and make it my headquarters. I'll build a new holy land." Fan Yin, the Son of War, and Zhang Yingshi shook their heads. There was no danger now, but it didn't mean there wouldn't be danger later. Yi Qinghan was still vigilant. He wouldn't be fooled by the safety in front of him. Since this place could make a saint disappear without a trace, there had to be a big problem. The yin-yang light of the Taoist robes wandered inside, and the aura was faintly discernible. The heavy berserk blade in his hand intertwined with the dark light, and the aura was extremely terrifying. As the four of them walked, they suddenly realized that there was something wrong with their vision. The world was no longer colorful, the trees were no longer green, and the mountains and rivers were no longer transparent. Instead, they had become pure blue. The water was blue, the sky was blue, and even the clouds were blue. All living things, including the four of them and their spiritual pets, had become blue. They were all blue. The blue was so enchanting, so blue that it was intoxicating. It was simply indescribably beautiful. What a beautiful world. It's so beautiful. Fan Yin and Zhang Yingshi were women after all. They didn't have any resistance to this kind of top-notch world. Yi Qinghan and the Son of War bristled. They rubbed their eyes and realized that this wasn't an illusion. This was the world in their eyes. "We just came in. Take 2 steps back and try," Yi Qinghan immediately said warily. "What?" Yi Qinghan took 10 steps back and realized that everything was still blue. It hadn't changed. The world in their eyes was so beautiful that they didn't want to go back. They were so happy that they didn't want to go back. "Wake up. We must have entered an illusion," Yi Qinghan reminded them in a deep voice. Fan Yin said disdainfully, "You're not vigilant when you should be vigilant, and you're spouting nonsense when you shouldn't be. How can such a beautiful place be an illusion?" Zhang Yingshi said with certainty. This is not an illusion. It can't be an illusion. I'm a top-notch upper-plane cultivator. Even if it's an illusion set up by an ordinary saint, I can still sense it. This place is completely natural. It should be a natural saint realm. Some kind of creature must have affected the surrounding environment, causing everything to be blue. Yi Qinghan shrugged and looked around warily. Finally, he looked at the divine bird and asked softly, "Did you find anything?" "I just took 10 steps back and didn't enter the normal line of sight. That's why I'm certain that this is an illusion." The divine bird looked around but didn't find anything special. It only realized that its perception had decreased greatly. It couldn't even sense the spiritual herbs at all. Its privileges had disappeared. Damn it. This place makes my hair stand on end. Let's get out of here. The divine bird whispered. Yi Qinghan gently raised frenzy and used his nomological laws. He realized that his strength had been suppressed by 70 to 80%. He only had 20% of his strength left. Not good. This isn't an illusion. It's someone else's domain. My combat strength has been suppressed by more than half. Yi Qinghan immediately warned. Only then did Zhang Yingshi and Fanning wake up. They used their divine power and realized that their strength had been suppressed by more than half. Their expressions changed as they exclaimed, "Oh no, we've really entered another creature's domain. Let's get out of here quickly." Yi Qinghan shook his head and said in a deep voice, "It's too late. I just took 10 steps back and realized that everything is still blue. I suspect that as long as it's blue, it's a domain. In someone else's domain, our actions will be severely restricted. What's controlling the domain? Find it." Fanning immediately looked around and realized that everything was blue. It was almost impossible to find the creature controlling the domain. Yi Qinghan's eyes were like the scorching sun as he scanned his surroundings. He wanted to see through the origin and find the creature controlling the blue domain. However, most of the creatures in the domain were like wooden chickens. They didn't have any spirituality and couldn't be the creature controlling the domain. At that moment, the weather changed. A strong wind blew and covered the four's eyes. When they opened their eyes again, there was another person in the domain. 5 people. However, there was one more Zhang Yingshi. There were 2 Zhang Yingshi. The 2 Zhang Yingshi had the same expression as they stared at each other in shock. Then, they pointed at each other and shouted, "She's a fake." Yi Qinghan and company were enraged. They took several steps back and distanced themselves from the 2 Zhang Yingshi. From the outside, it was impossible to tell the difference between the two. Chapter 2064. The 5 of them split into 3 groups. They kept their distance from each other and drew their swords vigilantly. The 2 Zhang Yingshi gripped the hilts of their divine swords and stared coldly at each other. They asked in unison, "What are you trying to do? Why are you impersonating me?" Yi Qinghan and the others were shocked. They said in unison, "What kind of skill is this? It's a godly disguise. Holy shit, if this divine bird can learn this skill, won't I be invincible?" The divine bird was ecstatic. It wanted nothing more than to devour the monster that controlled the domain and copy its ability. Yi Qinghan frowned. At this point, it was already good enough that it could identify Zhang Yingshi, let alone devour the monster. "Dojo Master Zhang, when did we meet?" Yi Qinghan asked in a low voice. "Great Buddha City." The 2 Zhang Yingshi replied in unison, without the slightest delay. "Yi Qinghan, believe me, I really am Zhang Yingshi." The 2 spoke again. Before Yi Qinghan and the others could react, the 2 drew their swords at the same time. They used the same sword style and attacked in the same way. Their movements were in sync. They were the same person. It's able to sense our thoughts and even copy our strength within the domain. If this goes on, we won't be able to distinguish the real from the fake. It's Zhang Yingshi now. Fanine immediately understood. Once such an existence entered its domain, it would be invincible. Even though the four of them had high statuses and powerful cultivations, they were still helpless against a creature they had never seen before. The divine bird's shifty eyes flashed. It wanted to devour the monster's skill, but it didn't think to identify the real Zhang Yingshi. The little divine bird and the divine bird were cut from the same cloth. They were indeed father and son. Their wretched appearances were carved from the same mold. Is there a way to identify them? The monster definitely has a demonic aura. Zhang Yingshi is a human, so it's impossible for there to be no difference at all, Yi Qinghan asked softly. The divine bird shook its head and replied, the smell and aura on their bodies are the same. There's no difference. Don't think about identifying them from the outside. You have to look at their essence. Essence. Understand? Yi Qinghan frowned as he recalled the words of the divine bird. He muttered to himself, essence, what is essence? Feelings. The feelings that we have with Zhang Yingshi are something that the demons don't have. A glint flashed across Yi Qinghan's eyes as he gripped Frenzy tightly. His face was expressionless, and his mind seemed to have stopped working. Even his soul seemed to have stopped working. Raising his saber, Yi Qinghan swung it towards the real Zhang Yingshi without holding back at all. His aura was terrifying and his killing intent was thick. If this saber were to land, even the real Zhang Yingshi would die. Yi Qinghan couldn't tell which one was the real Zhang Yingshi, so he could only attack one at random. Whoosh! In the blink of an eye, it was already right before one of Zhang Yingshi. The attacked Zhang Yingshi gripped her divine sword tightly, but she did not resist. Just as the saber gleam tore through her defensive stellar energy, the saber gleam abruptly turned, blowing her black hair into the air as it swept past her body and slashed towards the other Zhang Yingshi. Die! Boom! This time, Yi Qinghan did not hold back at all. He went straight for the other Zhang Yingshi's head. The violent saber chi wreaked havoc, and rocks flew everywhere. That Zhang Yingshi's expression changed. His figure flashed and disappeared into nothingness, fusing with the blue light as if he had become one with the heavens and earth. Humph! No matter how good your disguise is, it's impossible for you to trust us, Yi Qinghan said coldly. The four of them immediately stood back to back, looking around vigilantly. The demon had disappeared. This guy is in the domain. Let's kill all the creatures in the domain. I don't believe that he won't come out, the divine bird said smugly. Whoosh, whoosh. A gust of wind rose again, and the group lost their sense of direction. The divine bird on Yi Qinghan's shoulder was thrown off. Whoosh! A blue light flashed, and two divine birds appeared behind the four of them. They looked exactly the same. The two divine birds looked at each other, then retreated and shouted, F***CK, you dare to disguise yourself on this divine bird's head? This expression, this action, they were exactly like twins. There was no difference at all. The little money grubber and the little divine bird were dumbfounded. Even they could not tell their husband and father apart. Idiot, those who dare to offend me never have a good ending. The two divine birds cursed each other. Suddenly, one of the divine birds did not play by the rules. He spread his legs, revealing his male organ, and kept thrusting it. He shouted, I'm shameless, but you're shameless too. Learn from me. Learn from me. I dare to take off my clothes, I dare to pluck out my feathers. Come on. Come on. The divine bird looked at the other divine bird with disdain, laughing in an especially vulgar manner. The other divine bird was completely dumbfounded. It only now realized that there were still some things that it could not learn or replicate, such as this shameless and masochistic behavior. Whoosh! At this moment, although the four experts were dumbfounded for a moment, they quickly joined forces to imprison the dumbfounded divine bird on the spot. Evildoer! Show yourself! Yi Qinghan mobilized the flames, forming a sky-covering giant hand that enveloped the demon. Blue demonic flame. It was also blue in color, But this blue flame was not under the demon's control. It enveloped it, making it unable to control, evolve, or replicate it. Screech, the demon shrieked and roared in anger. It seemed that it was very afraid of the blue demonic flame. Whoosh! The demon transformed into a beautiful blue lotus demonic flower. It was so beautiful that one would be mesmerized by it at first glance. Its beauty was like the work of the god. It could not be replicated. It was too beautiful. Yi Qinghan had never seen such a beautiful flower. Even though it was struggling in the flames, it did not lose its elegance. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan waved his hand and grabbed the blue lotus demonic flame by the neck. He realized that the blue lotus demonic flower had already become a spirit. It could absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth and control the domain. It could use the blue color of the domain. However, it was afraid of flames because it was a water-type plant. Even if it transformed into a demon, it was still afraid of the blue demonic flame. Fortunately, Yi Qinghan knew how to use the blue demonic flame. If it were any other color of sacred flame, the blue lotus demonic flower would still be able to change its color and use it. The blue lotus demonic flower transformed into a human figure. It kept kowtowing and begging for mercy, hoping that Yi Qinghan would let it go. Yi Qinghan frowned as he looked at the blue lotus demonic flower. He did not understand how it could control the domain and turn all living things within it blue. He also did not understand how it could sense the souls and thoughts of living things. Say, if I eat this blue lotus demonic flower, will I be able to control the domain and turn everything blue for my use? Yi Qinghan asked curiously. Fanning shook his head and said uncertainly, I don't know. This creature should be newly born. I have never heard of it before. Master, I'm willing to be your lackey. Let me eat a part of it first. If it's poisonous, then poison me to death first. Who asked me to be so loyal? I'm willing to go through water and tread on fire for Master. I won't hesitate even if I have to die 1,000 times. The divine bird said wretchedly. Yi Qinghan sneered. He looked at the blue lotus demonic flower in his hand begging for mercy. The murderous intent in his eyes grew stronger. He wanted to learn its skills. Chapter 2065. Yi Qinghan was not one to go easy on women. He stared at the blue lotus demonic flower carefully, trying to figure out how to devour this ability. Fanning, Zhang Yingshi, and the Son of War had never heard of such a demonic creature before. They circled the demonic flower and looked at it again and again. If you eat its essence, you should be able to control the domain. The divine bird was drooling as it stared at the blue lotus demonic flower. What if you can't? That would be a pity, Yi Qinghan said cautiously. Then give me a petal. I'll try it and test the waters for you, the divine bird said flatteringly. No. I beg you, spare me. I won't dare to do it again. The blue lotus demonic flower swayed and sent out a soul fluctuation that reverberated in Yi Qinghan's sea of consciousness. Yi Qinghan rubbed his nose, pondered for a moment, and then coldly said, Give me your source energy first, and I'll let you take human form to talk to me. Otherwise, I'll have no choice but to eat your body and source energy. The blue lotus demonic flower trembled, and its blue lotus turned pale. It immediately spat out its essence. It was the blue lotus core. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and took the blue lotus core. He stared coldly at the blue lotus demonic flower and watched it take human form. The surrounding blue light disappeared, and a beautiful demonic spirit in a blue dress appeared. Her seductiveness far exceeded that of Fanning and Zhang Yingshi. Gulp, the Son of War and Yi Qinghan swallowed their saliva at the same time. Their eyes were fixed on this demonic spirit. However, the little demonic spirit immediately knelt in front of Yi Qinghan and begged pitifully, Esteemed one, I didn't mean to offend you. Please spare me. Don't even think about sparing you. Tell me honestly, How can I control your domain? If you tell me, I might not kill you. Yi Qinghan awkwardly hid his expression and pretended to be cold as he spoke. Blue Lotus Fei panicked. She racked her brains, but she couldn't think of a way to make Yi Qinghan learn the domain. There were only two ways to use such a domain. One was to devour the Blue Lotus origin, and the other was to make her recognize Yi Qinghan as her master. However, she was unwilling to do either. I'll give you an incense stick's worth of time to consider and then reply to me. If I don't get an answer in an incense stick's worth of time, I'll eat your origin flower core and completely refine it, Yi Qinghan said resolutely. No, the Blue Lotus Fairy kept kowtowing and begging for mercy. Unfortunately, Yi Qinghan had even devoured the chaos state for the sake of strength. How could a demonic flower take form? So what if she was a beauty? The son of war, Zhang Yingshi, and Fan Yin looked at Yi Qinghan in surprise. They thought he would take this opportunity to subdue the demonic flower and make her his slave. They never imagined that he wouldn't be moved by her beauty at all. The Blue Lotus Fairy could be said to be an outstanding beauty. Her face was absolutely perfect, sparkling and translucent. She was a monster born from devouring the essence of the sun and moon, as well as the spiritual energy of the world. She was not something humans could compare with. Humans always had some flaws, but the face and figure of this fae were nearly perfect. Yi Qinghan held the Blue Lotus origin flower core. He wanted to use his divine sense to probe and comprehend her domain. However, his divine sense couldn't penetrate the origin flower core, so he couldn't comprehend her domain. An incense stick's worth of time quickly passed. Yi Qinghan slowly tightened his grip on the Blue Lotus origin flower core. His right hand grabbed the beauty's neck as he lightly said, "It looks like you don't cherish your life. Don't. I'll talk. As long as I acknowledge you as my master, you can comprehend my domain. Furthermore, you can control and use my origin. Even if you devour my origin and comprehend my domain, you won't be able to use it. Please spare me." The Blue Lotus demonic flower begged for mercy in fear. After Yi Qinghan heard this, he bit the tip of his finger. A drop of essence blood seeped out and imprinted it on the Blue Lotus Fairy's forehead. He formed a seal with both hands and transformed it into a slave imprint. He forcefully subdued this fae. Whoosh! The Blue Lotus Fairy involuntarily transformed back into her original form. Then, she transformed into a Blue Lotus imprint and imprinted it on Yi Qinghan's forehead. The imprint was vivid and didn't dissipate. It was very eye-catching. Yi Qinghan closed his eyes and tried to comprehend the Blue Lotus Fairy's domain technique. After a long time, Yi Qinghan slowly opened his eyes. The Blue Lotus imprint on his forehead was even more soul-stirring. It was so blue that it made one's heart flutter. Whoosh! In an instant, the entire world was shrouded in blue. Everyone, including the Son of War, was bathed in the blue light. It was as though they had turned into blue people. Even their eyes had turned blue. Whoosh, whoosh. Within the domain, Yi Qinghan's thoughts moved. A strong wind blew, and a blue light blocked everyone's vision. Then, everyone's positions changed. When it stopped, Yi Qinghan disappeared. However, two Son of War appeared. The two Son of War had the same expression. They were both shocked. At least, Fan Yin and Zhang Yingshi couldn't tell which one was the real Son of War and which one was Yi Qinghan. Whoosh! The Son of War pulled out a scimitar and used the Zhan family's Aries blade technique to complement Yi Qinghan's cultivation. However, what happened next made his hair stand on end. The Son of War that Yi Qinghan had transformed into was also holding a scimitar. The scimitar was exactly the same as the Son of War's, and it emitted a blue glow. The saber technique he used was exactly the same as the Son of War's. "You've cultivated the Aries blade technique?" the Son of War asked in shock. Yi Qinghan didn't speak like the Son of War. Instead, He transformed back into his original body and smiled. No. In the blue domain, I can clearly sense your thoughts and your martial art. I can even say that I am you. Everything that you control, I can copy it. However, when the domain disappears, this part of your understanding will automatically disappear. Damn, this is a sick skill. The Son of War and the others exclaimed in shock. Only the divine bird was unhappy. It said in disdain, "Why don't you let me eat its origin? It's a waste for you to use this skill. You can't copy a sage's soul. You don't need to copy a being below a sage. This skill is useless to you." The divine bird was right. This skill might seem overpowered, but it was of little value to Yi Qinghan. Fanning, the Son of War, and Zhang Yingshi all nodded in agreement. With Yi Qinghan's current combat strength, he really didn't need this useless domain to deal with others, unless he was surrounded. Yi Qinghan smiled evilly. There's nothing to be afraid of when you have more skills. It's still a skill, and it's very useful. If I encounter Xia Zhilong and his subordinates one day, I might be able to make them kill each other. Seeing Yi Qinghan's devilish smile, the Son of War, Fanning, and Zhang Yingshi couldn't help but tremble. Don't show off this kind of insignificant skill in front of a sage. Be careful that your cleverness backfires and you get beaten to death, Fanning reminded. Yi Qinghan shrugged and calmly replied, I understand. Let's continue going deeper. With that, the four of them continued to search for treasures, encircle powerful beasts, steal their demon cores, and devour their blood essence. At this time, Xia Zhilong had brought over 100 experts from behind. However, their direction was slightly off, so they didn't find Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan also didn't discover them. Chapter 2066. Xia Zhilong's direction was slightly off course because he trusted the Blood Strike Guard's information too much. Xian Xiu frowned as he looked deeper into the forest. He realized that the group was heading east, while Yi Qinghan's group was heading straight up. He reminded Xia Zhilong, Your Highness, are we going the wrong way? Xia Zhilong said confidently, I've seen the map of Coiling Dragon Island. The eastern side is a plain that's suitable for traveling. Furthermore, I suspect that Yi Qinghan's group's route is just a smokescreen. Since they want to go to the secret realm, why don't they go through the plains? That's why I think they're going through the plains. Even if they're really going through the mountain range, we can use the plains to overtake them and stop them. No one dared to doubt Xia Zhilong's decision. Xian Xiu didn't waste any more time and led a large group of experts to the plains. This group of people were all in the upper realm, so they were obviously much faster than Yi Qinghan's group. The distance between the two sides was getting closer and closer. The secluded mountain range stretched on endlessly. Tall mountains towered into the clouds. Every mountain that stretched on endlessly had a huge and terrifying monster within it. Screech. Roar. Angry roars shook the mountains. They stood at the top of the mountain and looked down. Their eyes were extremely terrifying. Some of these creatures were clearly wild beasts like wolves and tigers, but when they mutated into demonic beasts, they were even more terrifying than humans of the same level. The demonic beasts had terrifying auras, and their mouths were filled with sinister fangs. Under the moonlight, they looked even more sinister. Whoosh! A bird flew across the sky in search of food. Its red eyes weren't affected by the night at all. The four of them carefully avoided the sight of the demonic beasts and birds. They walked along the ancient trees and mountain rocks. There was no benefit in fighting these useless creatures. There didn't seem to be any special sacred medicines in the periphery, and there weren't many powerful beasts either. The four of them constantly changed directions, avoiding the demonic beasts and searching for spiritual medicines. About half a month later, the four of them entered an especially lush forest. Ancient trees towered into the sky, and their roots were intertwined. Even the exposed roots were several meters thick. Vines hung down from the branches, and the huge bird's nest was as big as a palace, blocking out the setting sun. Although the forest extended in all directions, it was very dark, especially when it was dark. It was so dark that one couldn't even see their own fingers. Even the starlight in the sky was covered. At night, the dense dark element covered the entire forest. Not to mention the path, the four of them could not even see each other. Their divine sense was also not very good. If they were not careful, they would knock into trees. "We can't do it at night. Let's rest," Fanning said faintly. No one objected. Yi Qinghan also wanted to rest for a while and properly comprehend the Blue Lotus domain. Just as he was about to look for a tree hole to rest in, he coincidentally bumped into a green vine. He climbed up the vine and saw that the stars were shining brightly in the sky. When he looked around, he saw that there was actually a huge bird's nest beside him. It looked like a palace. Half of the roof was sealed, just like a room. The door was 10 meters wide and 20 meters high. The other half was open air. There were no birds in the nest, not even an egg. Yi Qinghan stepped into the nest and felt a faintly discernible aura of a holy beast. However, it was too weak. He guessed that the bird had already left. Such a big nest. What kind of bird made it? The divine bird curiously looked at the big nest. It spanned across several ancient trees and was as big as a football field. The bird that lived here must not be small. No matter what it was, it didn't come back so quickly. It can't be so coincidental that it will come back tonight. Let's rest for the night and continue our journey tomorrow morning, Yi Qinghan said faintly. Fanning also flew up the vine and looked under the moonlight. She shrugged and walked along a branch to another ancient tree. She was not willing to stay in the bird's nest. "You guys don't want to come together?" Yi Qinghan asked. "Forget it. We won't squeeze with you. If the bird comes back, at least we won't be wiped out," Zhang Yingshi mocked. The son of battle also did not want to occupy the bird's nest. He stayed away from Yi Qinghan's position. Yi Qinghan did not stand on ceremony. He lay in the center with his four limbs facing the sky. He looked up at the sky and thought about how to make the Blue Lotus domain stronger. He even thought about how to preserve the copied ability forever. Perhaps he could activate his own domain without using the Blue Lotus and increase his combat strength to the maximum. Time passed slowly. Yi Qinghan slowly closed his eyes. His tired soul gradually relaxed. His aura was restrained, and he was like a weed that merged with the grass nest. As dawn approached, the starry sky was no longer shining. The stars and the moon were hidden, and it was pitch black. A black shadow quietly descended from the sky without any sound or aura. It slowly landed on the bird's nest and pressed down on Yi Qinghan with its wings. The smell of blood woke Yi Qinghan up. He hurriedly opened his eyes and realized that his body was covered in white feathers. However, blood was flowing everywhere and quickly dyed the feathers red. Yi Qinghan did not dare to move. He was unsure of the bird's level and was afraid of angering it. A powerful aura spread out. One could imagine how powerful this bird was. It was at least a peak upper-level bird. Hiss hiss. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath and wanted to move his body. However, he was pressed down by the bird. The slightest movement would wake the bird up. Damn! It can't be so coincidental. Yi Qinghan was shocked. Just as he was thinking, blood from the bird's wound seeped onto his body. It flowed past his forehead and covered his face. The aura caused a burning pain to appear on his face. He had the golden body of a saint. Ordinary weapons could not break through his physical defenses. This bird's aura was enough to injure him. He was almost certain that this bird's strength was terrifying. If it was not at the level of a saint, it was only second to a saint. "Why are you so unlucky?" The divine bird wailed and slowly crawled out of the nest. Let the three of them attract the bird's attention from the outside. Lure it away first so that I can escape. Yi Qinghan secretly transmitted his voice. At this time, Zhang Yingshi, Fan Yin, and the Son of War had already felt a powerful aura enveloping the nest. At this time, they were all lying in the distance, using tree trunks to block their vision and secretly peeping at the nest. Fan Yin's string appeared in his hand. However, he did not dare to release the Yin-Yang Bagua Taoist robe because he did not want to alarm the bird. It's the Qing Di Luan. It's a sacred beast second only to a saint. Its strength can defeat the four of us together. The Yin-Yang Bagua Taoist robe's protection is useless. Fan Yin thought to himself. He recalled that the heavenly Grand Master Grand Sage had told him about the strongest sacred beasts in the world. The Qing Di Luan was one of them. The feathers of the Blue Emperor Luan were blue, so blue that they looked a little white. At night they looked white. Its wings were long and narrow. The feathers of this Blue Emperor Luan were as white as snow at night. Obviously, it was an adult sacred beast. Its strength was not much weaker than an eternal saint. It could easily defeat an old master like Zhang Yingshi. Zhang Yingshi's face suddenly changed. He hoped that Yi Qinghan would not act rashly and let the Qing Di Luan leave first. Perhaps he could escape with his life. At this time, the divine bird escaped from the nest. However, the Qing Di Luan was a powerful creature. It only treated the divine bird as an ordinary bird and let it go. Long after the divine bird left, Yi Qinghan did not see the three masters lure the Qing Di Luan away. The world was still silent. He could not help but break out in cold sweat. Chapter 2067. Yi Qinghan was going crazy. He didn't dare to move. He only hoped that the Azure Emperor Luan would move a little and give him a chance to escape. The Azure Emperor Luan had a long beak and a green crown on its head. Its wings had yet to spread, and there was a hint of white in the green. It was very beautiful. Its body was about 4 or 5 meters long and 2 meters wide. One of its wings was torn, and golden blood was still flowing out. It took a long time for the wound to heal. Yi Qinghan tried to lick the golden blood. Suddenly, it was as if his body had exploded. The terrifying golden blood flowed along the tip of his tongue, making his blood boil. He didn't expect the Azure Emperor Luan's blood to be precious blood. At this time, Yi Qinghan was no longer idle. He swallowed a few mouthfuls of essence blood, and the essence blood in his body completely exploded. Every cell in his body was stimulated. He suddenly lost control of his aura and emitted a terrifying pressure, which immediately awakened the Azure Emperor Luan. Screech! The Azure Emperor Luan was shocked. It spread its wings and rushed into the sky. After rushing into the sky, it looked down at the nest and found Yi Qinghan. Its eyes bloomed with green light. With a flap of its wings, the green light swooped down on the ground. It was enough to destroy the world. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan activated the Yin-Yang 8 trigrams Taoist robe and ran away. But the green light behind him was too destructive. The nest was shattered, the ground sank, and half of the mountain range was razed to the ground. Even with the protection of the Taoist robe, he was still hit by the powerful impact. His blood and qi were in turmoil, and he spat out a mouthful of essence blood. It's the Azure Emperor Luan. At the peak of its cultivation, it is an eternal saint. Run! Fan Yin said and turned to run. He didn't care about Yi Qinghan anymore. The Son of War and Zhang Yingshi didn't dare to join in. They fled in different directions, not daring to stay for a moment. Yi Qinghan's face was pale. He still wanted to run, but the Azure Emperor Luan appeared in front of him in the blink of an eye. It looked down at Yi Qinghan, and he was so scared that his hands and feet trembled. He didn't even dare to show his true strength. Supreme Holy Beast! I didn't mean to disturb you. You are so powerful, you must have wisdom. We can talk, maybe I can help you. Yi Qinghan did not dare to fight back. He could only beg for forgiveness, hoping that the Blue Emperor Luan would be wise enough not to stoop to his level. Humans again. Greedy humans. How many years has it been since you last appeared here? How dare you come to my lair today? Are you trying to bully me because I'm weak? The Blue Emperor Luan spoke in human language. Its voice was clear and melodious, but there was no doubt that its voice was filled with killing intent and disgust. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath and raised his hands high, admitting defeat. Sacred beast, you misunderstood. I thought that this lair was ownerless. You see, I mean you no harm. Otherwise, I would have taken the opportunity to attack you just now. And even if you attack me, what can you do to me? The Blue Emperor Luan gently flapped its wings, and a green light shot into the sky, tearing the darkness apart. Yi Qinghan's scalp went numb. This thing was too powerful. It was so powerful that he couldn't even use his domain. At this moment, his mind raced and his eyes flashed. He quickly said, Supreme Holy Beast, I have a way to heal your wounds. I can at least increase your recovery speed by 10 times. As long as you spare me, I will immediately refine a sacred pill to suppress your wounds. Humans are not to be trusted. Go to hell. There was no emotion in the Blue Emperor Luan's eyes. There was only disgust and disdain. Once the killing intent was released, its injured wings flapped again. Yi Qinghan's face felt like there were tens of thousands of insects crawling on it. His entire body was cold. If the Blue Emperor Luan attacked again, even with the protection of the Yin and Yang Bagua Taoist robe, he would still be severely injured. At this moment, the divine bird rushed over and shouted, Great Lord Blue Emperor Luan, please don't attack. The divine bird didn't dare to escape. If Yi Qinghan died, it would definitely die. The current Yi Qinghan was not someone that it could cancel the contract with just because it wanted to. Therefore, it could only risk its life to protect him. The Blue Emperor Luan looked at the ant-like divine bird and Yi Qinghan. The green light from its wings became even more frightening. Great Lord Blue Emperor Luan, you are benevolent and beautiful. You are the emperor of all birds. Please restrain your anger and allow this lowly bird to speak. The divine bird trembled. Facing the Blue Emperor Luan was like facing an eternal saint. It dared to quibble, but it didn't dare to blaspheme. Speak. The Blue Emperor Luan's voice was crisp and clear, like the sound of nature. Its posture was high and mighty, like a mother model of the world. Perhaps because the divine bird was also a bird, and a highly intelligent one at that, the Blue Emperor Luan gave it a chance to speak. The divine bird's eyes flashed. It prostrated itself on the ground and respectfully said, Great Lord Blue Emperor Luan, you are the mother of all birds. Your position is comparable to the divine phoenix. Your child would never lie to you. My boss is a good person. You are injured, and you must need sacred medicine to heal. Please give your child a chance to show filial piety to you. My boss is an expert in alchemy. He would never harm you. He will make your injuries as good as new, and can even help you defeat a strong opponent. The Blue Emperor Luan looked at Yi Qinghan and the divine bird with disdain. Its enemy was so powerful that even it was injured. Yi Qinghan and the divine bird were like ants in front of it. How could they fight against the enemy? I don't need you to do anything. I have never trusted humans. Little parrot, stay away from him. I want to kill him. The Blue Emperor Luan firmly rejected the divine bird's suggestion. Yi Qinghan's hair stood on end as he retreated. He made a grabbing motion, and the berserk appeared in his hand. The eternal sacred artifact's aura slowly seeped out. Great Lord Blue Emperor Luan, you are indeed powerful. But it is not like I have no way to fight back. If I had been hostile to you, would your body have been able to withstand the eternal sacred artifact's attack? Yi Qinghan argued strongly and said in a deep voice, You hate humans, but there are good and bad people among them. Just like the beasts, they can't all be the same. Why can't you give us a chance? Yes, Lord Blue Emperor Luan, you are still injured. There is really no need to fight to the death with him. Let's have a good talk. Perhaps there will be a turn for the better. The divine bird flattered. The Blue Emperor Luan was not ignorant. It looked at Yi Qinghan's yin-yang Taoist robe and berserk. It could also see the seal on them. Once the seal was undone, it could instantly kill it. So it hesitated. The Blue Emperor Luan was silent for a moment. Then, a terrifying light shot out from its eyes. It said coldly, "Human, leave my domain. If you dare to come and offend me again, I will definitely kill you." Yi Qinghan bowed slightly and quickly retreated with the divine bird. He did not dare to blaspheme in the slightest. At this time, Fan Yin, Zhang Yingshi, and the Son of Battle had already escaped far enough. They stood in the distance and looked at Yi Qinghan. They were shocked to find that the Blue Emperor Luan did not attack Yi Qinghan. This bastard can actually communicate with the Blue Emperor Luan. Zhang Yingshi took a deep breath and said in disbelief. The Blue Emperor Luan did not kill him. Holy shit, this bastard can't be a beast man, right? Fan Yin and the Son of Battle were shocked. The Blue Emperor Luan's strength and hatred for humans were only known to the upper echelons of the Holy Land. This sacred beast would kill any human it saw. There was no room for negotiation. Actually, what they did not know was that the Blue Emperor Luan was already injured. It did not dare to take the risk to kill Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan left the forest and ran wildly. Occasionally, he would soar into the sky to look for the three bastards. He cursed, "These three bastards are even more disloyal than you. Boss, you're insulting me. You're comparing me with three treacherous scumbags. I risked my life to save you," the divine bird said, feeling wronged. Yi Qinghan. Whoosh, Yi Qinghan ran as fast as lightning. 2 hours later, he met up with the three experts. Both sides were staring with wide eyes. The three of you better remember this. The next time you encounter danger, don't blame me for running away first. Yi Qinghan snorted. Chapter 2068. Zhang Yingshi and the others pretended not to see Yi Qinghan's exasperation. Fan Yin, on the other hand, reprimanded Yi Qinghan. "If we stayed there to help you, we would have angered the Azure Emperor Luan. Do you know how powerful the Azure Emperor Luan is? Once it gets angry, it can raise everything within 1,000 miles to the ground. The four of us aren't even enough to fill the gaps between its teeth." That's right. The Azure Emperor Luan is the king of all birds. Don't underestimate it just because it's a few feet long. Its strength is second only to the Eternal Saints. You're just an ant in front of it, so it doesn't want to attack. If we rush over, we'll be like several ants. If we anger it, we'll all die. You don't understand, so we won't argue with you. Zhang Yingshi also quibbled. The Son of War coughed dryly. He didn't want to quibble, so he shrugged and said truthfully, "That thing isn't something we can fight against. Next time, if I encounter such a ferocious creature, I'll just run." But to be honest, Brother Yi, the Azure Emperor Luan you encountered is considered a docile creature. If it were any other ferocious creature, not even your bones would be left. Yi Qinghan rolled his eyes. He didn't want to argue with the three of them who had a deep foundation and were familiar with all kinds of strange creatures. So he could only lead the divine bird forward angrily. As far as the eye could see, ancient ferocious beasts covered the sky. Occasionally, they would soar into the sky from the ravines. Their angry roars reverberated between heaven and earth. A few days later, Yi Qinghan stood on top of a mountain and surveyed his surroundings. Spiritual qi pervaded the air, forming a thick white fog. This island range was boundless. The deep and vigorous mountainous area was thick and majestic. Spiritual herbs were everywhere, but there were no celestial herbs. However, Fan Yin, Zhang Yingshi, and the others weren't in a hurry. They knew how precious immortal herbs and immortal materials were. If they were so easy to find, they wouldn't have had a chance. The four of them continued to move forward. On both sides of the steep mountain path, they gradually found some eerie white bones. The appearance of these skeletons told them that they belonged to humans. Every bone was emitting a dignified mystery and texture, telling the story of how powerful and dignified the owner of these skeletons was when he was alive. Fanine used a tree branch to poke at the corpse. Looking at the veins on the corpse, he said faintly, "Along the way we found more than 10 corpses, all of them in the upper realm. Some of the bones were obviously hit hard, while some of the bones didn't even have a scratch. It can be imagined that the moment their souls were killed, they didn't even have a chance to resist. This shows that we have already entered the danger zone. So, let's keep a low profile, otherwise we won't even know how we died." Of the 4 of them, only Zhang Yingshi was at Upper God Realm Pinnacle while the others were only at Middle God Realm Pinnacle. This was the weakest cultivation they had encountered so far. The 4 of them were silent for a long time. They wanted to find a safe route. Even if they wanted to gain experience, it wasn't purely seeking death. Facing those creatures that they couldn't resist was no different from seeking death. At this moment, the gold-devouring toad in Yi Qinghan's body suddenly jumped out. Its mouth puffed up as it gestured towards the northwest. Yi Qinghan comforted the gold-devouring toad and took the lead in heading towards the northwest. Whoosh! The gold-devouring toad left Yi Qinghan's body and jumped dozens of meters in one leap, swiftly moving through the steep mountain area. Yi Qinghan followed closely behind. The divine bird stood on his shoulder and said in puzzlement, "Did this guy find another immortal material? Why didn't I feel it?" The gold-devouring toad is only interested in high-grade mineral veins. It specializes in this field. It relies on this to make a living. You're just more sensitive to spiritual treasures. You're definitely not on the same level. Fanine reminded him faintly. The divine bird glared at Fanine and said angrily, "Are you saying that I'm not as good as a toad?" Fanine glared at it and retorted without backing down, "I'm not saying that you're not as good as a toad. I'm saying that you're not on the same level as it. If you're unhappy, then tell me now. Are there any better mineral veins around here?" The divine bird immediately withered, but it soon said proudly, "This divine bird likes spiritual medicine and sacred medicine. What's the use of mineral veins? They can't be eaten." Tsk. Zhang Yingshi and Fanine mocked it without holding back. This divine bird's despicable nature had already transcended nature. But at this moment, the divine bird's pores suddenly exploded and its eyes widened like lanterns. Whoosh! The divine bird turned into a sharp sword and rushed into the distance. After a few swoops, it appeared on another mountain. Yi Qinghan's figure flashed and caught the divine bird. He lowered his voice and asked, "What did you find? This is a dangerous area. If we don't go deep, we'll die. Can you keep a low profile?" "Treasure. I found an important treasure," the divine bird cried out ecstatically. Croak! The gold-devouring toad was even faster. In the blink of an eye, it had rushed to Yi Qinghan's front. It looked down at a mountain in front of it that was filled with spiritual energy. It stuck out its tongue and was very excited. Yi Qinghan also stared at the mountain. The trees there were more lush than the other areas. The thick trunks and roots were intertwined and intertwined. There wasn't even a thorn in the mountain. It was full of ancient vegetation and creatures that had almost transformed. Roar, a low roar, and the sound waves spread out. It penetrated the bones and numbed the scalp. It was as if there were insects crawling on the face. Yi Qinghan's eyes shone. He stood in the distance and looked at the towering mountain. He saw several terrifying beasts and a few huge bird nests in the sky. A few vicious birds were circling in the sky. They were abnormally large. Whoosh, whoosh. Zhang Yingshi and the others had also arrived. They lay behind a huge rock and looked at the opposite shore. Their faces were extremely serious. That mountain has at least 7 or 8 vicious beasts that are as strong as or even stronger than me. I think there should be treasures there, but we might not be able to get them. Zhang Yingshi said frankly. Yi Qinghan thought for a moment and asked the divine bird, "Divine bird, what did you find?" "The entire mountain is filled with stones filled with spiritual energy. That kind of spiritual energy is definitely not ordinary spiritual stones. It's stones that are comparable to sacred medicine." The divine bird drooled. It wanted to pounce on it right now. Stones that were comparable to sacred medicine? Fan Yin, the son of war, and Zhang Yingshi looked at each other and said to themselves in surprise, "Could it be? Celestial sacred stone? A natural sacred medicine?" At the mention of this name, the son of war, Fan Yin, and the others couldn't help but swallow a mouthful of saliva. Their eyes were red. "What is it?" Yi Qinghan asked, puzzled. "It's something that the eternal saints use to restore the sacred power in their bodies. This thing is extremely rare and difficult to find in the world. Therefore, saints generally don't fight. Once they exhaust their strength, they can only rely on themselves to slowly recover. It takes hundreds of years for them to return to their peak state. However, once they have the celestial sacred stone, they can return to their peak state in 3 to 5 days, Fan Yin said in a serious voice. Yi Qinghan raised his eyebrows and asked in surprise, "Is it that exaggerated? It can't appear on this island, can it? Even if it's here, it should have been discovered by other eternal saints." Fan Yin shook his head and said, "Not everyone can find such a mineral vein with a spiritual pet. This kind of mineral vein's aura is restrained, and the sacred power in the celestial sacred stone will never overflow. Even if you and I are so close, can you feel that there is a sacred stone with a lot of spiritual energy in this mountain?" Yi Qinghan shook his head involuntarily. He could only see that there were many creatures living in this mountain, but he couldn't see anything special. Chapter 2069. Yi Qinghan gestured to the gold-devouring toad and whispered, "Go, dig a piece for us to see." The gold-devouring toad rushed into the valley and rushed to the opposite mountain. Its digging speed was comparable to a pangolin's, and it dug into the mountain in a few mouthfuls. The more the gold-devouring toad chewed, the more joyful it became. The spiritual energy inside the mountain grew stronger, but it didn't leak out. It was contained inside the mountain. After a short while, it found that the stones bathed in holy light were piled up in granules. Each piece weighed about 10 pounds and was slightly bigger than a fist. After the gold-devouring toad chewed on a few stones, it felt warm all over. Its skin cracked and then quickly recovered. The blood in its body changed color and its teeth reformed. It quickly evolved to a mid-level state. After waiting for about 2 hours, the gold-devouring toad finally finished its evolution. Its original skin had all fallen off, and now its skin shone with a golden light. It carried a stone bathed in holy light and rushed to the other side. Yi Qinghan and the others stared expectantly at the gold-devouring toad. Fan Yin and the others opened their eyes wide and stretched their heads to look at the glowing stone. They were extremely excited. "Yes. It's really a holy stone. It's a natural object. Ha ha. My old man showed me this kind of stone. We're rich." Fan Yin roared. Zhang Yingshi and the son of war rubbed their hands in excitement. They knew the value of this holy stone. Even if they brought back 100 pieces, the eternal saint would personally come out of seclusion to see them and reward them. Yi Qinghan did not have much interest in this kind of thing. He did not need it at the moment, so his expression was normal. However, the divine bird's expression was extremely exaggerated. Its feathers exploded, its mouth opened wide, and it drooled. It wanted nothing more than to rush over and take the holy stone. Whoosh! The gold-devouring toad brought the holy stone to Yi Qinghan's side and handed it to Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan took the stone and carefully examined it for a moment. He found that the power inside was far superior to the power in his body. It was very pure, and the level of power was far beyond divine power. When he held it in his hand, he found that the power in his body was actually restless. Yi Qinghan casually tossed the Holy Spirit stone to Fan Yin and asked, "Confirm it again, and then we will discuss how to take the Holy Spirit stone at the foot of this mountain." Fan Yin took the holy stone as if he was holding the totem of his faith. He was so excited that his whole body trembled, and he murmured, "This is it. That's it. Its level is very high." Zhang Yingshi and the Son of Battle also became excited. Such a tall mountain, how many heavenly spirit holy stones would there be? There were probably countless of them. What should we do? What should we do now? The Son of War asked excitedly. Yi Qinghan rolled his eyes. When he saw Zhang Yingshi and Fan Yin's expressions, he snorted, "What else can we do? Of course, we have to think of a way to drive away all those ferocious beasts and birds so that we can start mining. Holy sh*t, there are at least 8 of them whose fighting prowess is comparable to mine, and 2 of them are even stronger than mine. How do we chase them away?" Zhang Yingshi blurted out. The 4 of them were completely silent this time. There was treasure in front of them, but they did not have the strength to take it. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and summoned the star-twisting vine. He extended a vine to the opposite side and used its antennae to observe the ferocious beasts and birds in the mountain. There's a cow that looks like a unicorn, a wolf that's a mutant, a mantis that's about 10 feet tall, 2 white tigers that weigh several tons, and 3 bird. They're all mutants. As Club Master Zhang said, they're all at the top of the upper level. Yi Qinghan quickly reported the ferocious beasts in the mountain. If the 4 of us work together, we can easily kill one of the ferocious beasts. However, there are 8 of them. If they work together, the 4 of us won't even be enough to fill the gaps between their teeth, Yi Qinghan said honestly. What do we do? Zhang Yingshi and the other 2 asked in unison. Yi Qinghan looked at the 3 of them speechlessly and snorted. Do the 3 of you only know how to ask what to do? Can't you think of a way yourself? Capable people do more work. Zhang Yingshi and the other 2 replied bluntly. Yi Qinghan was speechless. He didn't want to bother with the 3 of them. He suddenly realized that as long as he was with them, they didn't seem to want to use their brains. Yi Qinghan finally looked at the divine bird and asked, "What do we do?" The divine bird was looking forward to the holy stone the most. Its eyes flickered and its saliva dripped onto the ground. It looked at the distance between the 2 mountains. It was only about 300 meters. Below it was a plain valley. Finally, it locked its gaze on the gold-devouring toad. "We have the gold-devouring toad. We'll dig from the foot of this mountain. We'll dig from the bottom without disturbing them. What do you think?" The divine bird probed. The 4 of them thought for a moment and felt that this plan was feasible. They all nodded. The 4 of them quickly retreated from the mountain and had the gold-devouring toad dig a tunnel. Its teeth could gnaw through high-grade ore veins, let alone ordinary mountain rock. Furthermore, it had evolved to the peak of the middle level, so its strength was even greater. Ka. The gold-devouring toad dug out a huge hole in the ground and continued to dig deeper. Yi Qinghan and the others set up a barrier around the hole to conceal it. Then, they followed the gold-devouring toad all the way down. The slope was about 60 degrees and the vertical depth was about 10 meters. Under normal circumstances, as long as the vicious beasts didn't pay special attention, they wouldn't be able to discover that someone was digging a tunnel. The gold-devouring toad's speed was extremely fast. In less than half a day, it had dug through the 2 mountains. They didn't expect that there would be a large amount of Holy Spirit stones 10 meters below the mountain. The Holy Spirit stones were piled up piece by piece. There was no need to divide them. The 4 of them were dumbfounded. How do we divide it? Zhang Yingshi and the others asked again. Yi Qinghan felt comfortable hearing this. He said without holding back, "My divine pet contributed the most, so I want half. The rest can be divided among the 3 of you." Damn, why are you so greedy? Fan Yin cursed without holding back. Yi Qinghan rolled his eyes and retorted, "There are many capable people. Now you're complaining that I'm asking for too much?" Cough, cough, cough. Brother Ye's words are true. There are so many Holy Spirit stones. Even if we take half and split it evenly, we'll probably get more than 2,000. I'm satisfied, the Son of War said awkwardly. Zhang Yingshi shrugged and said, "No problem. If it weren't for the high-level gold-devouring toad and the divine bird, we wouldn't have known that there were Holy Spirit stones here. Even if we knew, we wouldn't have the ability to take them. I'll take half and a third. No problem." Only then did Fan Yin agree. Then, Zhang Yingshi and Fan Yin were in charge of supporting the entire structure of the mountain. The Son of War and Yi Qinghan were in charge of collecting the Holy Spirit stones. The two were extremely fast. Soon, they collected more than 3,000 Holy Spirit stones. A large cave appeared in the mountain. There were still many Holy Spirit stones at the bottom. The two began to dig down. They dug for 3 days and collected more than 35,000 Holy Spirit stones. A large stone layer began to appear at the bottom. The stones were extremely hard. However, Yi Qinghan didn't dare to test it. He was afraid that it would cause the mountain to collapse. Therefore, he and the Son of War went up to collect. Zhang Yingshi and Fan Yin used their divine power to support the structure of the mountain. Although they were tired, seeing that they had collected so many Holy Spirit stones, their tiredness was swept away. This mountain stretched endlessly. Holy Spirit stones were everywhere. Based on initial estimates, they could collect at least 50,000 Holy Spirit stones. Chapter 2070. Fortunately, only the inner part of the mountain had the Holy Spirit stones. With the support of 2 experts, the mountain did not collapse. Yi Qinghan and the Son of War's hands were like machines as they continuously collected the Holy Spirit stones. Fortunately, Yi Qinghan's storage ring was given to the Chess Supreme by the Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage, and the Chess Supreme gave it to him. Such a storage ring was enough to hold a small domain, and it could also hold living things. When Yi Qinghan continued to collect the Holy Spirit stones, he found that the stones were not only at the foot of the mountain, but also on the other side of the mountain. 50,000 stones. Yi Qinghan had already searched more than 100 meters away from the other side of the mountain. He alone had collected more than 50,000 pieces, while the progeny of battle had collected about 30,000 pieces. However, there was still a large amount of heavenly sacred stones as far as the eye could see. "We're rich. Ha ha. If we sell it for 10,000 stones, the Eternal Ones will fight over it," Yi Qinghan said ecstatically. When Fan Yin heard this, he snorted and said, "This is not for sale. If you dare to sell it, my family's old man will break your legs. This thing is the same as the immortal material. It belongs to whoever snatches it. Look at who took it out to sell it." Fairy Fan Yin is right. It's not for sale. Zhang Yingshi said calmly, her eyes full of light. However, she did not want to give the Holy Spirit stones to the Eternal Ones of the Heavens Chant Mansion. She wanted to keep it for herself. The Son of War kept grabbing the Holy Spirit stones with both hands. He was ecstatic. At this rate, he could get at least 10,000 stones. If he handed over half, he could still get 5,000 stones. After collecting for about 20 days, Yi Qinghan had collected 34,000 stones. Yi Qinghan had already moved a few hundred meters away from the mountain. There were no more stones beyond that, and all that was left was a mess of stones. "I've collected 108,000 stones. There's still some left." The Son of War laughed. "I've collected a little more than 34,000 stones." Yi Qinghan smiled. He had the help of the star-twisting vine, the divine bird, and the gold-devouring toad. His speed was much faster than the Son of War. The two of them got a total of 411,000 yuan. "Let's split up. Once we leave, the mountain will collapse. Everyone be careful, Zhang Yingshi said solemnly. Once we're out, we'll quickly escape. Those ferocious beasts will definitely not let us off. Fan Yin also reminded. Yi Qinghan put away all the spirit pets and quickly left through the tunnel with the Son of War. Zhang Yingshi and Fan Yin tried to reduce the support of their godly power. Slowly, rocks began to fall from the sky above the mountain. Whoosh! The two of them quickly rushed towards the entrance of the cave, causing the mountain to shake and rumble. Boom! A rock fell and hit the bottom of the cave. The huge explosion shook the mountain, and then the whole mountain collapsed. Boom! Boom! Roar! As the mountains collapsed, the beasts and birds were startled and rushed into the sky. Each of them looked at the collapsed mountain with a dumbfounded expression. Then, they raised their heads and roared into the sky. Their huge forelimbs smashed through the ground and broke several ancient trees. They actually uprooted the thick ancient trees. These powerful saint beasts were especially sensitive to spiritual qi. How could they not know that the spiritual qi in this mountain was already depleted? Therefore, they were furious and searched everywhere for the culprit. At this moment, Yi Qinghan and the other three left the cave and rushed towards the east at lightning speed. Screech! 3 powerful ferocious birds discovered their tracks from the sky and swooped down. Their sharp claws crushed the mountain rocks and ancient trees as they pounced on the 4 experts. Whoosh whoosh whoosh! The 4 of them did not dare to be restrained by the birds. They could only desperately escape into the distance. The birds were faster than Fan Yin. If not for the mountain and ancient trees blocking them, the 4 of them would have been killed. The 4 of them were thin and weak. They had the advantage and kept changing directions. However, the 5 ferocious beasts behind them flattened the mountain peaks and smashed through the mountains and rivers. They chased from behind and roared angrily, shaking the 9 heavens. Come closer to me. I'm going to activate the forbidden technique. I'll leave the rest to you. Yi Qinghan looked at the approaching ferocious beasts and birds. He did not dare to delay any longer. He prepared to use the Green Lotus Deity Step, seizing the heavens, and Shadowless Cloud, 2 saint arts. Okay. The 3 of them trusted Yi Qinghan unconditionally. Fan Yin ran onto Yi Qinghan's back, while the Son of War and Zhang Yingshi held onto his arms. Yi Qinghan's legs tightened. 2 surges of divine power flowed through his body at the same time. His blood boiled and his veins bulged. He stomped on the mountain rocks, and his body suddenly rose into the air. His afterimage was still in the same place as he disappeared into the sky above the eastern plains with the 3 of them. Yi Qinghan's body was still in the air. His divine power was exhausted and he fell from the sky. Protect me! I don't have any strength left. Yi Qinghan shouted. Whoosh! The 4 of them smashed into the ground at the same time. They were so fast that the others could not react in time. Zhang Yingshi was an expert of the older generation. She realized something was wrong and grabbed Yi Qinghan. She gradually reduced her speed and protected the 3 of them as they landed on the ground. Yi Qinghan's entire body went limp. His body was empty. Even his skin had dimmed. Fan Yin immediately took out a holy pill and placed it in Yi Qinghan's mouth, without hesitation. It melted in his mouth. Boom! Yi Qinghan sat cross-legged on the ground. He crossed his palms and used his divine power to restore his divine power. The holy light flowed and bathed his body. At this moment, Xia Zhilong led a large group of experts from the south and headed north. They were only 2 hours away from Yi Qinghan's position. In the depths of the island, the 5 ferocious beasts and 3 birds chased after Yi Qinghan's aura like crazy. No matter how fast Yi Qinghan was, he stirred up spacetime when he moved. The spiritual energy fluctuations were also different. The birds had a stronger sense of smell. They actually followed Yi Qinghan's trajectory to the east. The 8 ferocious beasts were much faster than Xia Zhilong's group. They would probably catch up to Yi Qinghan's group of 4 in 2 hours. Yi Qinghan's body was empty. If he wanted to recover to his peak, it would be impossible for him to do so without 2 hours. Therefore, according to the speed of the three parties, they would definitely clash here. Fanine and Zhang Yingshi looked into the distance. They felt a murderous aura shrouding their hearts and did not dare to stay for long. Son of War, make a small cart and place little Yi on it. Shall we continue forward? Fanine asked. The Son of War did not hesitate. He waved his hand and chopped off a large ancient tree. His saber skills were divine as he chopped the tree into pieces and quickly assembled them into a flat board. He then built 4 wooden wheels and a few brackets. Soon, a small cart was formed. Let's go and find a safe place to split the treasures. The Son of War placed Yi Qinghan on the cart and pushed it into the distance. Zhang Yingshi and Fanine guarded the 2 sides. Their weapons and defensive holy armors were fully activated as they rushed north. The 4 continued north, but the birds and ferocious beasts did not change their direction. They kept heading east. Xia Zhilong's group was also heading north. Therefore, Xia Zhilong, the birds, and the ferocious beasts would definitely clash here. At this moment, Xia Zhilong did not sense any danger. He never dreamed that there would be so many large ferocious beasts and birds in the plains. Instead, he waved the 9 dragons fan and urged everyone to speed up. Chapter 2071. Xia Zhilong held the 9 dragon fan in his hand as his figure flashed. His speed was extremely fast, and his eyes were as dazzling as the stars. He always looked so carefree and sunny. The Crown Prince's aura was vast and mighty. Hundreds of experts moved forward together, all of them extremely confident. Who would dare to fight against such a team unless they encountered an eternal being? Many experts charged towards the northeast. In the blink of an eye, they had crossed 1,000 miles. 8 powerful beasts with surging evil auras forced their way into the plains and swept through everything in their path. Tens of thousands of beasts were frightened and formed a huge beast tide. The 2 sides were only a few thousand miles away from each other. Xia Zhilong didn't care at first. Instead, he sped up. However, when they were less than a few hundred miles away, his eyes shone brightly as he slowed down and stared into the distance. Xian Xiu also sensed the angry roars of the beast tide, and a trace of shock appeared in his eyes. Your Highness, should we avoid them? Xian Xiu asked in alarm. Xia Zhilong was silent for a moment before saying in a deep voice, such a huge beast tide must have been provoked. The only ones who can provoke these beasts must be Yi Qinghan and the others. They should be in front. Let's chase after them. Your Highness, it will be very dangerous if this continues, Xian Xiu bowed and reminded him. Xia Zhilong's eyes were filled with killing intent and resentment. His resentment towards Yi Qinghan had reached its peak. He didn't care about any danger. We have to kill Yi Qinghan, no matter how dangerous it is. Xia Zhilong made the final decision. The divine generals, blood-robed guards, and bounty hunters had no choice but to charge forward. Whoosh, in the blink of an eye, hundreds of figures rushed to where Yi Qinghan had landed. However, the huge beast horde was already in front of them. Without any hesitation, the beast horde charged at them. The strength of the beast horde at the front wasn't that great. It was a one-sided battle. Tens of thousands of beasts were slaughtered, and rivers of blood flowed. Corpses piled up like mountains. Xia Zhilong waved the 9 dragon fan in his hand, and the force shattered mountains and rivers. Even the corpses of the flying beasts were shattered. He led the group to crush the beast tide. The beast tide rushed in all directions, causing the earth to tremble as if thousands of horses were galloping. Roar! The 8 most powerful flying beasts pounced through the air, bearing their fangs. Their forelimbs smashed mountains and rivers as they discovered Xia Zhilong's group of experts. They commanded the 10,000 beasts to attack Xia Zhilong. Screech! Whoosh! The bird's long beak pierced through a powerful being's defenses, and its sharp claws grabbed a powerful upper-level bounty hunter. It actually dragged him into the void and tore him apart. Boom! Whoosh! His flesh and blood were torn into pieces, and blood dyed the sky red. A shrill and shrill cry had just echoed out when the ferocious bird swallowed all of his flesh and blood into its stomach. Roar! A mutant white tiger charged into the crowd. Its claws were powerful, and they pierced through the defenses of the elites. It opened its mouth and bit down. Its bite power was 3 times stronger than a high-tier Saint artifact. Its huge claws broke the high-tier Saint artifact, and it pressed down on an elite. It opened its mouth and swallowed him whole. Everyone was shocked and fled in horror. The group was thrown into chaos, and in the blink of an eye, they lost 10 blood-robed guards and bounty hunters. Xia Zhilong was burning with anger. He roared, and his entire body was bathed in golden light. A divine dragon swam, and the heavenly dragon's aura surged into the starry river. The 9 dragons fan transformed into 9 heavenly dragons that swooped down and attacked the 4 ferocious beasts. Roar! The beasts roared and dragons roared as they fought. Ravines appeared on the plains, and killing intent soared into the sky. At this time, Yi Qinghan and the others had already fled tens of thousands of miles away. Yi Qinghan was still recovering his divine power, and the son of battle was pushing the small wooden cart and fleeing. Fan Yin and Zhang Yingshi rushed into the starry sky and smiled as they saw the heavenly dragons roaring, the beasts roaring, and the white tiger tearing through the void. That idiot Xia Zhilong is also here. He took the blame for us as soon as we met him. It must have been hard on him, Fan Yin said with a smile. Pfft! Zhang Yingshi covered his mouth and laughed. Fan Yin was probably the only one who dared to call Xia Zhilong a retard. But now that he's here, our situation will be even more dangerous. We have to be on guard against him, Zhang Yingshi reminded. From the looks of it, he probably brought a lot of experts with him. But after this battle, it'll be good if 3/5 of them are still alive. At least dozens of people will die. Fan Yin said with certainty. The son of battle stopped and gasped for breath. His handsome and strong face had a trace of redness, and his excitement still hadn't dissipated. After a while, Yi Qinghan opened his eyes. Divine power flowed through his limbs and bones, and his skin became crystal clear again. Divine light circulated, and his temperament underwent a transcendent change. He still held a heavenly sacred stone in his hand. He had only used half of it, but the power in his body had changed. It was of a higher level than before, but it was far from the power of an eternal sovereign. Hua! Yi Qinghan rushed into the clouds and stood beside Fan Yin and Zhang Yingshi. He looked into the distance and was surprised to see 9 dragons flying into the sky and tearing apart powerful beasts. There were also many experts besieging them. He couldn't help but be surprised. Xia Zhilong is actually here. Let's go quickly. They have a lot of people and we can't beat them, Yi Qinghan said frankly. Let's go and find a safe place to divide the treasures, Fan Yin said excitedly. The 4 of them left immediately. Their figures flashed, and they rushed into the depths of the mountain range. They found a place with good feng shui. There were no experts around. Yi Qinghan released the star-twining vine to defend the surroundings, and the 4 of them sat cross-legged in the valley to divide the treasures. Yi Qinghan and the Son of War put all the Holy Spirit stones together. Yi Qinghan casually took half of them, and the rest were divided into 3 parts. The number was about the same, and no one cared about it. After all, there were too many. The total is a little more than 410,000. I'll take 200,000, and there'll be 210,000 left. Each of you will take a little more than 70,000. As for how you'll arrange it, we'd better be unified. Otherwise, we won't get any benefits, Yi Qinghan reminded them. Obviously, if the Eternal Sovereigns knew about this, it would be strange if they didn't fight over it. What kind of saint had no desires? That was because they weren't interested in some temptations. Let's say we got 40,000. You got 20,000 and we each got 7,000. When the time comes, we'll hand over all 7,000 to the Holy Land, and keep the rest for ourselves. Isn't that enough? Zhang Yingshi said seriously. Fan Yin didn't mind. After all, she was raised by the old man, and they were like father and daughter. There was no need to be so particular. However, Zhang Yingshi wanted to have her own reserves because she also wanted to become an eternal sovereign. The son of war clenched his fist. In such a huge battle clan, if he didn't keep some reserves for himself, he might not be able to keep his position as a true disciple. Therefore, he agreed with Zhang Yingshi. Yi Qinghan nodded and didn't refute anything. Fan Yin looked at Yi Qinghan curiously and asked, "How are you going to spend the 20,000 on the surface?" Yi Qinghan took a deep breath and sighed. "There are some treasures that I can't keep. When the time comes, I'll give 5,000 to the old man, 3,000 to the chess supreme, and 3,000 to the person behind me. There'll be 9,000 left. 8,000 will be used as a betrothal gift. The Martial Dao Supremacy Holy Land will get 5,000, and the Oshi Holy Land will get 3,000. Fan Yin nodded. Yi Qinghan was indebted to the chess supremacy. This debt of gratitude had to be repaid. Chapter 2072. After splitting the treasures, Yi Qinghan and the others didn't stop. They continued to venture deeper, but Xia Zhilong wasn't so lucky. He forcefully took on the burden that Yi Qinghan had thrown at them, causing them to suffer heavy losses. Xia Zhilong led everyone to beat back the beast tide. Even the 8 vicious beasts were beaten until they were covered in dirt and fled in a sorry state. However, out of the 200 to 300 people he had brought with him, 70 to 80 had died, and the rest were injured. Cough, cough, Xia Zhilong coughed up blood. The fury in his eyes had solidified. Yi Qinghan. Xia Zhilong roared and clenched his fists. He ordered the Xian cultivators to reorganize the team and soared into the sky, heading straight for the depth. The blood-robed guards followed Yi Qinghan's trail. Whoosh, the auras of the 200 experts soared into the sky. Their killing intent was dense. At this time, they vented all their anger on Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan knew nothing about their losses. At this moment, he was leading the other 3 and his divine pet to hide in the depths of the mountains to continue searching for treasures. Coiling Dragon Island's mountains were like coiling dragons that stretched endlessly. They were thick and majestic. The scenery was picturesque. A waterfall fell from the sky, and hundreds of birds sang softly. It was like the sound of nature. The 4 handsome men and beautiful women held divine weapons in their hand. They were cautious and didn't dare to be careless in the slightest. They advanced step by step. Along the way, the divine bird and the gold-devouring toad searched for treasures. They found many sacred medicines, including more than 30 stalks that were more than 100,000 years old. They were the favorite of the upper-level cultivators. However, the other 3 didn't want much. They only took 12 stalks out of the 30 stalks. Each of them had 4 stalks, and Yi Qinghan had 20. The gold-devouring toad found some high-grade ore veins, but they were all one entity. Yi Qinghan and the others wanted to, but they didn't have the strength. They could only give up and leave after making a mark. The 4 experts also encountered some powerful vicious beasts, but they didn't live in groups. 4 against 1, they heavily injured several powerful vicious beasts. However, their luck was extremely good. They didn't encounter any creatures like the Azure Emperor Luan. The 4 became more and more excited. They felt that the legendary Coiling Dragon Island wasn't that scary. It was simply a cultivator's paradise. Screech, with a furious roar, the sky turned into a blue sky. Green light covered the sky and covered the earth, and a mighty pressure swept out. A bird's shadow pounced down from the sky, and with a flap of its wings, it covered 1,000 miles. It's the verdant Emperor Luan. The blue Emperor Luan rushed into the depths of the forest with anger. It flew over the four people's heads as if it wanted to kill all of its enemies. With a flash of green light, it could actually kill powerful birds and beasts. Yi Qinghan and the others crouched at the foot of the mountain, not daring to make the slightest movement. Who offended Qing Diluan? From the looks of it, it was just a battle earlier. In the end, not only did he not win, he even got injured. Now, he's going to take revenge? Fan Yin said in surprise. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed. He clenched his fist crazily and raised his saber to pursue. Stand. Yi Qinghan, are you crazy? Zhang Yingshi asked in shock. However, Yi Qinghan didn't listen to Zhang Yingshi at all. Instead, he chased after the blue Emperor Luan, and his speed was getting faster and faster. For some reason, he felt that the blue Emperor Luan was one of his opportunities. The son of war, Fan Yin, and the others looked at each other. They didn't want him to take the risk alone, so they could only follow. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The four experts chased after the blue Emperor Luan in the sky. The blue Emperor Luan seemed to only want to take revenge, and didn't care about the four experts in the mountain. Screech. The blue Emperor Luan let out a long screech and spread its wings. The green light was mixed with white light, and it was as beautiful as a phoenix dancing in the sky. In the depths of the forest, a powerful pressure responded to the blue Emperor Luan. It seemed to be filled with disdain and anger. The powerful flame covered the sky and covered the earth, sweeping across thousands of miles. It was powerful and ferocious. Roar. Screech. The ancient beast language reverberated in the sky. The two sides didn't fight, but they were already arguing with each other. No one could understand the language of beasts, but the divine bird could. The language of beasts was exactly the same, and there was no difference. The vicious creature in the depths of the forest stole the blue Emperor Luan's children. Listening to its voice, the vicious creature in the depths of the forest is a fire hoe. The blue Emperor Luan is also a fire-type bird, and is one of the fire hoe's food sources. However, the fire hoe can't beat the adult blue Emperor Luan, so it specializes in hunting the young ones. The divine bird explained, when the blue Emperor Luan left to find food, the fire hoe attacked the nest of the blue Emperor Luan and swallowed all three of its children. The blue Emperor Luan came to take revenge, but there are two fire hoe in the depths of the forest, one male and one female. They join forces, and the blue Emperor Luan's strength hasn't reached the peak yet, so it can't beat the fire hoe. The grudges between the two sides were quickly settled. There were two fire hoe in the depths of the forest, and when they joined forces, they were even stronger than the blue Emperor Luan. Zhang Yingshi's face was ugly. He pulled Yi Qinghan and said, "Don't mess around. Interfering in this matter is no different from seeking death." Yi Qinghan's eyes were firm. He wildly said, "A fire hoe's fire attribute monster core is absolutely at the level of an immortal medicine. This is the best opportunity. As long as I can obtain a fire hoe's monster core, I can attack the upper level boundary. But you can't risk your life to snatch it," Fan Yin reminded him, aghast. Yi Qinghan faintly smiled. He faintly asked, "Look at all the things on my body. Which one of them wasn't obtained by risking my life? Isn't it a heavenly sacred stone? Isn't it a divine gold immortal material?" The son of war and the others were silent. It seemed that Yi Qinghan had already made up his mind. "I will definitely take action. As long as you help me, the four of us can join forces and kill a fire hoe. With the fire hoe's monster core in my hands, my fire attribute monster core will reach perfection, and I will reach the peak of the upper level boundary. As long as I gather enough monster cores from the 5 elements of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth, then I will be able to achieve eternity. This is an opportunity for me. If you want to withdraw, I won't make things difficult for you," Yi Qinghan said in a low voice. The son of war had obtained so many heavenly sacred stones out of thin air. Without Yi Qinghan, No one else would have been able to obtain so many heavenly sacred stones. Now that Yi Qinghan needed their help, if they left, that would be too immoral. The son of war thought for a moment and then nodded. He firmly said, "I'll help you. At worst, I'll die. If I don't die, I'll definitely have good fortune in the future." Fanine was naturally willing to help Yi Qinghan. Not only that, but she also had the Yin-Yang Bagua Taoist robe on her body. The fire hoe might not be able to kill her. "I'll help you." Fanine followed. Zhang Yingshi sighed and said, "All right, then I'll accompany you 3 little lunatics in your madness." Yi Qinghan smiled. He stroked the seal on the hilt of Frenzy Saber. If he opened another seal and couldn't kill the fire hoe within 10 moves, then he would die without a doubt. This was because Frenzy Saber would absorb all of his supernatural power. Without supernatural power, how could he survive alone in the center of the battlefield? Fanine immediately pressed down on Yi Qinghan's hand. She shook her head and said, "Don't open another seal. My family's old man said that before you reach the upper level boundary, you shouldn't open the 3rd seal." Yi Qinghan confidently smiled and said, "Wealth comes from danger. Believe me, the 3 of you will support me and I will be the main attacker. With the Blue Emperor Luan entangling another one, 10 moves will be more than enough for me to kill a fire hoe." At this time, the Blue Emperor Luan and the 2 Firehouse had already begun fighting in the depths of the battlefield. Their auras soared to the heavens. Flames soared to the heavens, and even space began to burn. Chapter 2073. Roar! The 2 hornless beasts soared into the sky, entangling with each other like fire dragons, trying to entangle the verdant Emperor Luan. The Blue Emperor Luan's silhouette flickered. Green light cut through time and space, rushing in all directions, shocking thousands of miles. The powerful beasts in the surroundings didn't dare to be affected and all fled into the distance. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan tore open the 3rd seal and drew his saber. His aura was like a rainbow as he slashed at the void. Boom! The Yin-Yang 8 trigrams formation appeared in front of his Taoist robe, sweeping up the spiritual chi of heaven and earth and turning it into his own. He was extremely powerful, and in the blink of an eye, he had killed his way to the periphery of the battlefield. "Lord Luan, let me help you!" Yi Qinghan roared angrily and swung his saber at a fire hornless centipede. The tyrannical 7 feet heavy saber swept across, and its imposing aura surged in all directions. Boom boom boom! Whoosh whoosh whoosh! In a flash, the sky was engulfed in flames and space and time collapsed. Yi Qinghan was bathed in flames as he resisted Huo Wu's flames. He tore through the stellar energy and attacked Huo Wu's body. Screech! The Blue Emperor Luan seized the opportunity to attack the other fire hornless beast, separating the 2 fire hornless beasts. Roar! Huo Wu was enraged. He twisted his body and smashed his tail towards Berserk. The current Berserk could already exhaust 10% of the Eternal Saint artifact's strength. Both sides collided, and shock waves of fire flattened the mountain range. Boom! Yi Qinghan was sent flying thousands of meters away by this attack, crashing into a mountain peak. However, 90% of the aftershock was absorbed by the Yin-Yang Bagua Taoist robe. He only suffered 10% of the power, so he was not injured. However, a lot of his divine power was consumed. The fire hornless dragon's defenses were torn apart by this blade. It violently chopped open its scales and actually tore apart its flesh. Roar! Roar! The fire-horned hoe miserably cried out. Flames shattered mountains and rivers, and its mournful cries caused the other fire-horned hoe to be enraged. It desperately tried to kill the Blue Emperor Luan, but it was suppressed from beginning to end. Whoosh whoosh whoosh! Boom! The Son of War, Fanine, and Zhang Yingshi all erupted with attacks. They supported Huo Ho with attacks from all sides, hanging from a distance and launching long-range killing moves. They didn't want to give Huaho a chance to kill Yi Qinghan. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, Yi Qinghan breathed out a few mouthfuls of turbid air and raised his knife to attack again. He gathered his divine power and the 8 trigrams wrapped around his golden body. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth was forcefully reversed and rushed into his body, gathering on the heavy frenzy knife. The purple lightning turned into a swimming dragon and swam on the back of the saber. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan swung his saber at the Huowu again and roared, "Open!" Whoosh! Whoosh! Boom! The Huoho's scales couldn't even be melted by lava, and had been tempered by powerful flames for countless years. But in the face of Berserk, who had opened his third seal, it was still somewhat fragile. The Huoho felt the dense killing intent and continuously roared, hoping that the other Huoho would come over to help. It also made its most terrifying counterattack. With a dragon tail whip, it caused the heavens and earth to collapse, mountains and rivers to cry, and the great Tao to mourn. The shockwave sent the Child of War and Zhang Yingshi flying. With the protection of his Taoist robe, Fan Yin was still able to protect himself. The pulling silk thread in his hand turned into tens of thousands of feet long, constantly wrapping around the fire puppet. Shoo! 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 One end of the pulling silk thread wrapped around the Huoho's 7 inches and the other end wrapped around its massive tail. Yi Qinghan took advantage of the situation to attack the center of the Huoho's body. With a slash of his saber, the Huoho fell from the sky. Boom! Roar! The Huoho was enraged from being smashed. It swung its tail at Yi Qinghan and sent him flying. Boom! Yi Qinghan's golden body nearly shattered. His body was sent flying into the distance like a broken kite. Even with the protection of his Taoist robe, he was still severely injured. Puff! Yi Qinghan spat out a mouthful of blood essence. His eyes lost focus and he couldn't even stand up. Shoo! Shoo! Boundless heaven and earth, the great Tao locks the soul. With the pulling silk thread out, the golden body cannot escape. Fan Yin cast an incantation. The pulling silk thread grew longer and longer. Countless threads wrapped around the Huoho's golden body. At this time, the Huoho had been severely injured by Yi Qinghan and was unable to resist for a moment. Its body was bound by the pulling silk thread. The Huoho's body twisted. It wanted to struggle and break the pulling silk thread. The pulling silk thread was made of immortal material. It wasn't something that anyone could break. The pulling silk thread grew tighter and tighter. The Huoho roared, twisting the pulling silk thread into a straight line. Fan Yin used all of his strength but was still unable to lock down the Huoho's golden body. He could only temporarily control it. "Help me!" Fan Yin roared. Blood flowed from his 7 orifices. His monstrous face was fierce and terrifying. Boom! The Son of War chopped down with his saber, aiming for the vital point. Zhang Yingshi had a sword hidden in his sleeves. It pierced through space and time and struck towards the Huoho's eyes. Boom boom boom! Shoo! Shoo! Roar! The Huoho swung its tail. Seeing that it was about to be locked down, it could only struggle with all its might. This caused Fan Yin to bear more and more force. Her fingers were bleeding from the pulling silk thread, and her jade-like hands were about to be cut open. At this time, Yi Qinghan clenched his teeth and soared into the sky. His hands grasped the berserk saber. He swooped down from the sky, slashing down at the Huoho's vital point. Hua! The water origin twisted wildly, bringing with it a destructive murderous intent as it arrived in front of Huowu. Boom! Poochie! The defense of the Huoho's vital point was the weakest. It was pierced through by Yi Qinghan's saber. Screech! Screech! Roar! The Huoho's roar changed. With a final desperate strike, it broke free from Fan Yin's shackles. Its tail swept out, sending the Son of War, Fan Yin, Zhang Yingshi, and Yi Qinghan flying away. Puff! Yi Qinghan and the others madly sprinted for blood essence. The four of them were struck together. Luckily, the Son of War and Zhang Yingshi were the last to withstand less than 10% of the force. Otherwise, they would have been instantly killed. Yi Qinghan and Fan Yin blocked 99% of the force. Even with the help of their robes, their bodies were still covered in crack. Their blood dyed their golden bodies red. Bang! The four of them smashed into a mountain. They were dizzy and their souls were almost shattered. The Son of War and Zhang Yingshi fainted on the spot. Fan Yin had never suffered such a terrifying attack and also lost consciousness. Only Yi Qinghan clenched his teeth and remained conscious. The Huoho that was attacked fell from the sky. 7 inches from its throat, the heavy frenzy sank into its throat. Blood dyed its golden body. It struggled for a few moments before completely losing consciousness. Roar! The other Huoho roared in despair. It was killed by the Blue Emperor Luan in a moment of distraction, and its Naiden was taken away. Yi Qinghan crawled out of the mountain and quickly pulled out the heavy frenzy. He cut open the Huoho's body and took out the Naiden. He took several steps back and looked at the enraged Blue Emperor Luan. He quickly said, "Lord Blue Emperor Luan, we were helping you out of the kindness of our hearts." The Blue Emperor Luan looked down at Yi Qinghan. Seeing that his golden body was almost destroyed and his 3 helpers had fainted in the mountain, the hostility in its eyes finally dissipated. "Azure Emperor Luan, if I only wanted the inner core, I would have waited until both sides were severely injured before making my move. However, I wanted to avenge you, so I made my move earlier. I hope you can understand my intentions," Yi Qinghan explained once again. "I understand. Thank you for helping me get my revenge. I will remember this kindness. My Blue Emperor Luan clan will never repay kindness with ingratitude." The Naiden in the Blue Emperor Luan's beak quickly flew towards Yi Qinghan. "Since you need the Huoho's Naiden, I will give it to you." Yi Qinghan was overjoyed. He quickly waved his hand and borrowed the Huoho's Naiden. 2 Naidens were enough for him to cultivate his fire elemental origin to perfection. His fire elemental origin would stabilize at the peak of the upper level. "Thank you, Lord Blue Emperor Luan, for helping me." Yi Qinghan quickly bowed. The Blue Emperor Luan licked its wounds and looked at the 2 Huoho. Its eyes were full of sorrow. It had killed its enemy, but its children would never come back to life. "You guys should leave quickly. The battle here will attract stronger beings. If you don't leave now, you will be implicated," the Blue Emperor Luan reminded them. Yi Qinghan was shocked. He quickly begged, "Lord Blue Emperor Luan, please take us with you. We have suffered heavy losses. If we don't find a safe place to rest, we will die." After that, Yi Qinghan quickly dragged Fan Yin, the son of battle, and Zhang Yingshi out of the mountain. He looked at the Blue Emperor Luan expectantly. "You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.